Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Ocean Township, and I'm glad to see everybody here tonight. We're going to call the meeting to order of March 8th, 2018. Vin, can I have the roll call, please?
Deputy Mayor Chair.
Here.
Council members Long.
Here.
Napolitani.
Here.
Shepherd.
Here.
And Mayor Siciliano.
Here, everybody please rise for a pledge of allegiance, and then please remain standing for a moment of silent prayer thereafter. Thank you. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, where are we here? Okay, the notice requirement of the Open Public Meeting Act for this meeting has been satisfied. A copy of the annual notice was sent to the Asbury Park Press, Coaster, posted in Sound Hall, and filed in the office of the municipal clerk on December 28th, 2017. There are two fire exits, one to my right, which will take you out to the parking lot here, and one to my left, which will also take you out, meanders down the hall, and back out to the parking lot. If you have a cell phone, now's the time to turn it off. If you need to make a call, kindly go out into the hallway. If you want to take pictures or something, you can keep your volume down or something like that. That's fine. We'll do it that way. Do we have any, before we get started with the agenda, we have some council comments. I just want to make a statement here. I want to congratulate our wrestling team this year for an outstanding year. The year just wound up down in Atlantic City. We had several individuals that did really well. Mr. Jake Benner took second in the state, which is fantastic. Alex Pineros took seventh in the state. And Alex Manzo also had two wrestleback opportunities in the state tournament, which is really good for the team. We had a couple of district place winners that also went down. And I think we had 8 district champions, and then the rest went on to region. So the team overall was a District 24 team champions, which was very good. And our coach, Sip Apicelli, congratulations to Sip. He was coach of the year this year. So hats off to those guys. They had a fantastic year. Just want to give them a shout out. And we'll have them at a meeting at a later date to recognize them and honor them as well. John, you have anything for us tonight?
Yes, we held our program Hidden in Plain Sight with Special Agents Tim McMahon and Mac Reimel from the DEA. I want to thank Judy Johnson, who helped put the whole program together at the rec center. It was a very eye-opening and enlightening experience, to say the least, on what to look for in your child's bedroom for different things that a parent may not know is in there. I'm hoping that the Board of Ed follows suit and possibly does something for the start of the school year, as I think more parents should be aware of what to look for in their child's bedroom and other areas within the house. Next thing, we had a very good meeting with the Italian American Club today with President John Adio, town manager, Mike, and the chief to go over some parking issues with the Italian Festival moving forward into August. I wanted to let the residents know that we are working on that parking situation, and hopefully we can get a better flow of the cars going in and out of the festival so that we can get more people in there and make it more enjoyable for you.
Great. Thanks, John. Donna, you have anything for us?
Just that on next Friday night is St. Patrick's Day. We're celebrating St. Patrick's Day with a dinner at the Renaissance Room, and it's $20, and we have much more than just corned beef and cabbage. We have dancing, we have a DJ, we have all kinds of food, and everyone's invited.
That's going to be great. $20, that's it?
$20.
Come on.
But you have to let me know by Wednesday if you want to come, so I have enough room for you.
I'm in.
Okay.
Rich, you have anything?
Yes, I just want to say, Mayor, to congratulate Councilman Napolitani. The program Hidden in Plain Sight was excellent, and I agree with John. It's something that we should really try to partner with the Board of Ed, maybe during an open house at the beginning of the next school year or something like that. I really thought it was a really, really excellent program. I'm very, very glad that you brought them in for us. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks, John. Rob?
Kudos as well, John. Great event. An hour well spent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, last week we had our planning board meeting for the month. We approved our township planning board engineer, and planner. Also approved 2 site plans, one for 58 Monmouth Road and one for Target. That was the extent of the planning board meeting. Very quick one. That's all I have, Mayor.
Well, why do you have two microphones? Are you joining the UN or something?
There you go.
What's going on there,
I didn't want
Rob?
it to go to waste.
Okay. Fair
So
enough.
they can hear me.
Nice. Mike, anything for us tonight?
I have nothing this evening.
Marty?
Nothing this evening.
Illuminate us. Nothing. Okay. So we're going to go through our regular agenda, folks. Then at the end of the meeting, you'll have an opportunity to come up to the microphone and share anything you have with us. As we go along, if you have anything on resolutions, when we get to that point, you'll be able to come up then too. So I'll let you know as we get to that. So the purpose of the public portion of this meeting is to solely ask questions to understand resolutions and vouchers that appear on the agenda is not an occasion for a public hearing on an ordinance. All questions not related to an item on this agenda should be asked during the public portion's comment at the end of the meeting. Does anybody have anything as to the resolutions or the vouchers right now that appear on the agenda? If you do, kindly come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. No?
Don?
No? Okay, seeing or hearing nobody. We have the minutes of February 28th, 2018 workshop. Someone please offer.
I'll offer.
Second?
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Chair.
Yes.
Council members Long,
Yes.
Napolitani.
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes.
And Mayor Sosiano.
Yes, we also have resolution 18047 through 18048. Someone please offer.
I'll offer.
Second?
Second.
Deputy Mayor Chair.
Yes.
Council members Long,
Yes.
Napolitani.
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes.
And Mayor Sosiano.
Yes, right now we have ordinance 2304. Vin, I'm going to turn it over to you as introduction for our establishing a cap bank for 2018. Someone please offer.
I'll offer.
Second?
Second?
Deputy Mayor Chair.
Yes.
Council members Long,
Yes.
Napolitani.
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes.
And Mayor Sosiano.
Yes. No, okay, that wasn't the one.
Yeah.
Vouchers in the amount of $11,436,286.65. Someone please offer.
I'll offer.
Second?
Second.
Deputy Mayor Chair.
Yes.
Council members Long,
Yes.
Napolitani.
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes.
And Mayor Sosiano.
Okay, I think this is when I turn over to Vin. Resolution no, we're
Coming.
not yet. We're not there. 18049. Authorize the Ocean Township to conduct an annual audit review in accordance with the provisions of NJSA 40A:4-78B. Someone please offer.
I'll offer.
I'll
Second.
second.
Deputy Mayor Chair.
Yes.
Council members Long,
Yes.
Napolitani.
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes.
And Mayor Sosiano.
18050. Authorize the execution of a rental agreement between the Township and the Board of Education for the use of 8 54-passenger school buses for the 2018 recreation program. The cost not to exceed $8,000. Someone please offer.
I'll offer.
Second?
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Chair.
Yes.
Council members Long,
Yes.
Napolitani.
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes.
And Mayor Sosiano.
Yes. 18051. Authorize the amendment of a special assessment resolution number 16-214 approved on November 10th, 2016, reducing the total assessment amount by $8,640 from $158,458.20 to $149,817.60. Someone please offer.
I'll offer.
Second?
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Chair.
Yes.
Council members Long,
Yes.
Napolitani.
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes.
And Mayor Sosiano.
Yes. Anytime there's a reduction, it's a yes. Just put me down for 18052. Authorize a contract with Jungle Lasers LLC, Alleners, NJ, to provide conversion services for the police department alarm registrations at an annual fee not to exceed $3,000. Someone please offer.
I'll offer.
And
Second.
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Chair.
Yes.
Council members Long.
Yes.
Napolitani.
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes.
And Mayor Sosiano.
Yes. 18053. Authorize the tax collector to issue refunds or credits to those taxpayers who have received favorable state tax appeal judgments. Someone please offer.
I'll offer.
Second.
Second.
Deputy Mayor Chair.
Yes.
Council members Long.
Yes.
Napolitani.
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes.
And Mayor Sosiano.
Yes. Now, 18054 to approve the introduction of the 2018 municipal budget, which, by the way, has a 0 tax increase. Vin?
The municipal budget of the Township of Ocean, County of Monmouth for fiscal year 2018. Be it resolved that the following statement of revenues and appropriations shall constitute the municipal budget for 2018. Be it further resolved that the said budget will be published in the Coaster in the issue of March 15, 2018. Notice is hereby given that the budget and tax resolution was approved by the, or will be approved by the Township Council, the Township of Ocean on March 8, 2018, and a hearing of said budget will be held in the municipal building on April 5th, 2018 at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Okay, now for adoption.
Give me a motion. Thanks.
We have a motion for 18054. Someone please offer.
I'll offer.
Second.
I'll second.
Deputy Mayor Chair.
Yes.
Council members Long.
Yes.
Napolitani.
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes.
And Mayor Sosiano.
Yes, again, that has the budget will have a budget presentation at a later date, and it's being introduced at a 0 tax increase this year. And it's not even an election year, right, John? How about that? What kind of gimmick is that? Anyway.
Yeah.
So tonight for adoption, we have ordinance 2303. Vin, would you read the title,
Sure.
please?
An ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 21 of the Comprehensive Land Development Ordinance of the Township of Ocean as it relates to Block 33, Lot 1901, located on the northeast intersection of Deal Road and Route 35.
Okay. Someone please open a public hearing on ordinance number 2303.
I move that we open to a public hearing on ordinance number 2303.
Second?
And I will second that.
Deputy Mayor Chair,
I'll abstain.
Council Members Long,
Yes.
Naplatani,
Yes.
Shephaka,
Yes.
and Mayor Siciliano.
Yes. If anybody wishes to be heard on ordinance number 2303, we're going to step up to the microphone. We're going to do it row by row here, and you'll have 3 minutes, if you don't mind. So first row, anybody wish to be heard? Doc, come up, state your name and address for the record, folks, because everything's recorded.
Dr. Malamella, 46 Redwood Drive, Ocean Township. There are 27,000, approximately 291 residents in Ocean Township. What some people are trying to do is a minority asking that their little plot of area be given the privilege of, let's have no development there, without any regard for the rest of the township. Money that's being spent. Speaking about open space, let's use that money for open space to buy trees and plant on Route 35 and beautify this and take care of the community rather than a small segment of the community. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Doc. I appreciate it. Anybody else on the first row? No, second row? You have anybody? Don, come on up. State your name and address for the record.
Don Geiger, 1108 Grassmere, Ocean. Preamble. I skipped the bills list in deference to Vinnie.
You got 3 minutes.
Okay. Oh, you're timing.
Yeah.
Okay. All that preamble, for those who don't like 2303, if it's not passed, can they guarantee there won't be another lawsuit? Can they guarantee that my property taxes, I know they're going to go up, but won't go up astronomically, so I can't afford to live here anymore? Number one. Number two, based upon the presented proposal, this is the best possible deal we can get. Now, someone else could come along and just slam it as a stop and shop, which is a no-win situation. Lastly, not lastly, but property taxes. Are they going to go up, going to go down, stay the same? With this influx of tax revenue, they least likely go up minimally, maybe even go down. On the tree canopy issue, someone came out with 38% versus 40%. That makes us urban. We are urban. How many farms do we have in Ocean Township? Operating farms, not vegetable gardens or anything like this. 100 years ago, was Deal Road? Was it paved? Was your house there? So that means it had to be developed at some point to put your house there. And last, if not developed, who benefits? Who really benefits? And will those opposed commit their personal funds to help the township with the expenses that may ensue from being sued or massive increases to property tax? If they'll come out and say pledge a couple $1,000s each, maybe not. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Geiger. All right, anybody from the third row on the left side? Anybody have anything? Come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. I was going to go this side first, down this side, and then we'll come back up, if you don't mind. Unless there was anybody from the second row here. Did we miss any?
That's okay. Stay to the one side.
wanted to wait a little bit.
Okay, then I'm going to go down this side. We'll come back.
Okay, Donna, you're on,
Donna,
Donna.
it's all you.
I wanted to wait too, because
Okay, Donna, you're on, Donna.
I'm not ready. Okay, Donnie Asser, 241 Pinewood Avenue in Oakhurst. Hi guys, we're back again.
Hi.
I wish I'd had a chance to really blow through this before, so it's good to look at this tonight. I still have issues. My main issue with talking tonight is some of the traffic issues that we've discussed, and the notes that I was taking are kind of backed up in here, where a lot of it is still dependent on talking to the DOT, dependent on this, depending on that, what's gonna come to and what's not. I'm curious, and I wonder how. And I know still things still have to go before planning and stuff will happen here, but how do we adopt this ordinance knowing that there are so many things that aren't set in stone? There's so many things that might change. Because I've brought up a couple times before that the way the traffic is setting up right now, I just don't find it feasible. Now, I'm not a DOT person, but from going through other intersections around the communities in Eatontown and wherever, what works and what doesn't work. So if they don't do the little slipstream, we were talking about that at the last meeting, the jug handle, we've said this before, people are not going to be able to get out of there and get across two things of traffic to turn left on 35 to do a U-turn. It's not going to happen. There's not enough blacktops.
Donna, I don't want to interrupt you.
No,
I'm not going to, and I'm going to give you more time.
That's right.
I just want to say a statement. Again, what you're bringing up, this is just a zone change.
Right.
What we're proposing in here are some of these requests that are in here, even though they may be allowed, may not be permitted, A, by DOT,
Right.
B, by DEP.
Right.
So just because we're saying, well, we're changing the zone, basically this zone changes there's already an existing zone, I want everybody to know this, that allows development right now. If we did nothing tonight, there's a development to go through, we would put about 83.5% impervious coverage on the site and get rid of about 28 acres of trees.
Right.
This development saves about this ordinance will save 10 acres and reduce the impervious coverage by 52%.
Understood.
All other elements of it, traffic,
Right.
drainage, DEP will all be before the planning board. They have to be met there by engineers there, and then goes out to the state agencies for approval. So if none of those items meet their approval,
One of
They
the
can't do
reasons I bring this up
Mm-hmm.
is because 2 meetings ago, I think it was Marty, might not have been, was up there asking a lot of the same questions. Or actually, no, we were talking to Jackie, and you said that one of the benefits of this rezoning ordinance and changing this use was because of the road widening and the jug handle
right.
and all that coming through the developer. So if we see that as one of the main benefits of why you want to change this, and then it doesn't come to fruition,
Well,
then how do we still count it as a benefit?
Go ahead, Marty.
I believe the zoning requires the jug handle. It states that it seeks the slip road, but there's an understanding
Right.
that may not get approved.
Right.
So in the alternative, there's a road widening that would create 3 lanes on Deal Road.
Right, with a
So that
dedicated
the
right
right
turn.
lane would be able to turn right onto
Correct.
35 going north.
Right.
And, I sat through the planning board hearings years ago when Stop and Shop made their application, which had some of these road improvements. And I heard both traffic experts, one for the applicant and one for the town, both testify that the improvements that were suggested at that time, which are similar to what's being suggested here, would result in an overall improvement to the traffic on Deal Road and Route 35.
That being said, in this council room a couple of meetings ago, we did have a discussion, and I don't remember who exactly it was on the board, but we agreed in this discussion that it might actually just be a wash. And we can go back and I can find the tape.
No, it
of
doesn't-
who it was, but just
Right.
saying. But I mean, so
Right.
my only point is I'll go right back to the
Go ahead,
beginning.
get to-
We want to pass, you want to adopt this ordinance, but we were told in this room that one of the best reasons for adopting it was because of this traffic.
Well, we put in the ordinance that there has to be a road improvement in
Right.
one shape or form.
No, I understand what's in it. I'm just saying conversationally.
Okay.
What was stated at one of these questions was this is one of the best reasons that we're doing this ordinance.
It's a reason, right?
So if one of the best reasons is up in the air,
Well, no, there's going to be, in the ordinance, it says a road improvement.
right, but a lot of it is depending on DOT. Is my
Right,
point.
Well,
so-
DOT would relate to the slip road, no question.
Yeah, I
Because they
understand.
may
I'm
not
just,
allow the slip road.
I'm
But-
just not seeing one
But the
positive.
road
or the other.
widening would be subject to the road widening.
Mm-hmm.
And from our perspective, I think there will be a substantial benefit traffic-wise.
Okay.
And that it won't be a wash. It'll be better than it was. But the other point is, and again, this goes back to how it was zoned years ago.
Right.
Before we created, at the time when we created the overlay zone, which was the Stop and Shop zone, the applicant could have developed the entire property with C2 and or 0180 uses without any road improvements. So now you'd have something built up on the site, and there'd be no road widening, there'd be no jug handle, there'd be no slip road if that's allowed. So having it done this way gives us those road improvements, which we believe will result in a benefit, and certainly is better than having someone develop that site without any road improvement.
Understood. I'll finish, but I just think that what we've reviewed and what we looked at through several meetings is that it's not guaranteed the way it's designed that it's going to be better. So I don't like that having being up in the air, and then we'll see how DOT ends up with it. That's just kind of my main thought on that.
Thank you. Anybody else from that row wish to be heard? Come on up to the microphone. No. Next row, anybody? We're going down the left side.
On this side.
We're down this side. Okay, row number 5. Okay. Anybody on the left side of the room? Come on up to the microphone. Okay, thank you.
Paul Drucker, 20 Oak Avenue, Ocean Township.
Yep. Oh, good.
Good.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, all right.
Once more.
Again, I'm sorry.
Paul Drucker, 20 Oak Avenue, Ocean. My big issue with this site is the gas station, not just because the intensity of traffic is going to add, but also the environmental aspects of it. I don't know if you know, but in Ocean Township alone, there are over 30 sites that are on the DEP's no
You
contaminated
just have
site
to
list.
speak a little louder.
Yeah,
You
just-
have to
sure.
speak a little
Yeah.
louder because that's get picked up by the person that's taping this.
Okay.
Okay, Paul, 30
So
sites.
there's already 30 sites in Ocean that are on the DP's contaminated site list. Of those, every gas station that exists now and used to exist. So we're going to add another one that's going to be even bigger than the rest of these to this potential, environmental problem in this town. So before we add a new one, we have 11 others that still need to be cleaned up, and every one of those has groundwater impacts that are, some of them are over 6 acres large and they're shallow. And I know it comes up that this is new and Wawa does a pretty good job, but these things need to be inspected, they need to be monitored frequently, or else the leaks occur.
Absolutely.
Leak detection has been around since 1988.
Right.
And since that time, there's been thousands
Still
of
leaks.
gas stations that leak. So that is my big concern. And I saw the plan that they had for the Wawa, and what I know of Wawa gas stations, I worked at a few, cleaned a few of them up. They're not going to be okay with just that one little access point. They're going to want a big access point. And you're going to have big tanker trucks coming in there. You're going to have spills from them, spills from the tank. You're going to have all sorts of problems. Just Google gas station leaks, and you see what happens with those. And from what I know, and you go to any Wawa anywhere in New Jersey or anywhere, they are packed, night and day, packed with people coming in and out. And we all know that intersection, the infrastructure is just not there. It's not. It's a nightmare in the summer. So I would ask that if at any point when this goes through, you do a traffic study for an entire week in the summer, and let that
Paul,
tell the town
everything you're
engineer.
talking about, we're not really here to try an application. I know we're getting in there right now. We're going off the rail a little bit. In this zone presently,
Right.
the zone we're proposing, the zone before that, back to 1972, gas station's been a permitted use.
Right, but you're going to increase the intensity. In this
Whether
ordinance,
DEP is
right?
going to allow it, it's another story. That has to go through their rigors of them taking a look at it as well. Same with traffic
Right.
and all that. As far as the other stuff, that also will be dealt with at a planning board level. Shouldn't, if an application come there, traffic not allowing big trucks coming in off of Logan, or that'll all be vetted out right there. So
Right, yeah, I understand.
you'll have another opportunity.
Right, but am I right in understanding that this ordinance approves?
It approves that use.
The
The
use,
gas station
the increased
continues
use.
as a use.
Right, but this doesn't increase what's allowed, this ordinance.
No, we reduced it from 16 pumps to 12.
Pumps to 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we made a lot of reductions in this ordinance.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks you, Paul. Thank you for your input. Yep. Gentlemen, do you have something now you wanted to? Okay. That's fine.
Robert Hoffman from 432 Harnell and Oakhurst.
Yes.
We were still addressing the traffic situation going west, but there's nothing to address the traffic situation going the other way. And I've been times trying to get home and the traffic's backed up down Route 18 because cars, it's just one line of cars all the way.
That's a
And it's
problem.
it's a big problem.
Oh, yeah.
And in the summer, you know how bad it is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I
Lived
I
here
can't-
55 years. I
Right.
get it.
Well, I've been here a long time myself. If I can't get home at night,
Yeah.
it's a problem. And as it is now, even to get out, I got to go to Sunset sometimes just to even get out or down to a lair. So, I mean, it is a situation. And,
Absolutely.
and if you go down to Tom's River, I think you're taking a Hooper Avenue because when you have the same kind of jug handle and you've got to cut across 2 lanes, it's an impossibility.
Right.
So, I mean, that's part of it. But the deer, I mean, how are they going to address the deer from coming into the road? And
Well, that again, we're not here for that tonight, but that'll also be addressed there. I mean, I think we had a meeting early on in the year with the developer, and he had mentioned, one of the planners, that deer are migratory. They like to follow the stream, and in fact, by clearing out near the highways,
Yeah.
actually a safer environment for the deer. They won't be so prone to jump in front of it.
But near the highway, I
Track.
have no problem with by the highway. It's the coming back part.
Well, we're also in the middle of a deer management study right now. We will take action on a deer management program in Ocean. We're going to have to.
And that wouldn't affect the flooding like on Poplar.
Again, all that has to be,
Okay.
it has to meet all that criteria as far as
In order-
at a zone, at a planning board,
In
so.
order to get approval, you have to provide environmental studies.
Right.
Your engineer has to testify, and one of the things they have to testify to is that you're not going to make any of the water situations, the drainage worse. In fact, you have to show improvement.
Right.
So that's one of the things they will have to show.
Like by Redmond, I can't think of the street down by
I'm sorry, I
Redmond.
can't
Yeah, Redmond, Brookside.
Yeah, it floods.
Brookside's horrible.
Brookside,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
floods
horrible.
Right. So that's another issue that
Yeah.
I got to figure it's going to exacerbate it with all the runoff.
Well, it's not, they have to prove that it doesn't. Actually, within it's a 100-year floodplain, so the criteria has to improve by 80%.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Robert. You were late. I'll let you go because we're going row by row, but yes,
I
sir.
just want to ask a
Name and
question.
address, sir.
First of all,
Yeah,
what,
name and
what-
address for the record, Mike.
Michael Leopold, 1302 South Wanamason
Okay.
Drive. All right, I moved here 3 years ago. I live on the lake. The lake is basically a cesspool. It is part of the municipal. Basically, it's the storm sewer system. It's part of the sewer system.
Stormwater, not sewers.
Stormwater. And since I've been living here only 3 years, I see a difference, and I hear from neighbors how horrible it is. Now, I don't know what the downside is of just keeping the wetlands the way they are, not approving any new zoning at this point. The lake has to be cleaned up. There was talk about putting filters in. That never transpired. There's no plan, from what I know, to make the developers put filters in for the storm sewers. I heard years back that whatever happened in Seaview Square, whether, people looking the other way for whatever reason, there are not proper storm gates in any of those storm sewers, and all of that goes into the lake, and that goes into the ocean. And I don't know what the downside is not granting any new zoning until, the town, all the towns surrounding the lake and the wetlands takes responsibility for the damage they've already caused to the environment. And the other thing I wanted to ask was, are these developers going to get any kind of tax abatement to do this construction? I'm from New York, and I happen to be a lawyer.
We don't do that in Ocean
I don't know
Township.
if you do that
No.
in New Jersey.
We give tax penalty.
All right, so that's my concern, and I don't know what the downside would be. I just want to hear anybody's opinion of not
Well, Mike, we
granting any new
can't,
zoning. at
Mike,
this point.
you came late. I'm going to say this. If we do nothing, it's an approved developable site right now. It's publicly owned. I mean, privately owned, not publicly owned. So if we did nothing, right now it's approved for 83.5% impervious coverage and 28 acres of tree demolition. The new ordinance brings it down to 52% impervious coverage and saves about 10 acres of trees. So we're just changing the zone. Doesn't even mean anybody's even going to come with an application. Guy may calculate his costs and walk away. But we're setting up so in the future, if anybody does, we have that little bit of impervious coverage going forward.
And where is all the stormwater going to drain into?
They have to prove to us that they're going to be able to manage stormwater and make it better and not worse
That will be dealt with in
at
detail
a planning board.
at the planning board meeting, where they talk about stormwater runoff and how it's dealt with and where it goes and whether they need basins or whatever. But that's done at the planning board meeting.
Right.
But like you said, I mean, right now it's zoned for a certain use. Previously, it's been zoned. We've been doing this and dealing with this property since about 2000 This is a long process till we got here. And frankly, the application currently, or the proposal currently, is substantially improved over all of the years of proposals we've seen.
Right.
So, it may be nice to say we shouldn't do anything with the property, but we have a landowner who owns it, and whoever has it isn't, you're a lawyer, they're entitled to develop it.
Right.
And this is a much better alternative than what's ever been proposed to us.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Very good. They like you. Must be your haircut.
I thought they were clapping for my answer.
No, Mike combed his hair nice. I see him in the gym in the morning. He doesn't look that good. I'm going to clap for you, too.
Hello, Dan Kasalik, 1620 Melville Street in Oakhurst. I'm here to talk about the setback on the northern property line at 240 feet. We were told to go to the meeting with the developer. The developer put on. At that meeting, we were told that 250 feet would remain wooded, uncut, left alone, and then a 40-foot landscape buffer, where they had to raise the elevation for the hotel and do all kinds of things like that. So 290 feet is what we were told. Almost a football field, we've been told on previous occasions. I just want to ask the mayor and council how it ended up 240 feet for the building setback, because we were told to go there, and whatever they said at that meeting, we would hold
We're
them
going
to.
to incorporate into this ordinance, yeah.
Yes, sir. And now and I didn't even ask that question initially on. It was asked very early on. Somebody else from Melville who's not here. So that whole neighborhood over there is under the impression that it's going to be ballpark 300 feet. And now it's 240-foot setback. I understand it's going to be about 256 feet from the dead end of Melville to the hotel. But I don't know why they just didn't say it was going to be 256 feet.
I think, and you and I talked about it, Dan.
Yes,
I
sir, we
think,
did. And I appreciate you getting back
I heard
to me.
what you heard.
Yeah.
And I questioned. I said, "What? Why?" And it went round and round when we were recrafting. We made changes to 2303 since December when it was supposed to, November, I should say. And one of, I think they told me, well, the brook meanders north, and then at that point it's 290. At the narrowest, it's 240, and we were really calculating 290 from building to building. So, all right, well, let's at least get as much as I can in there. So the 240 is what we got in there. I mean, I'm trying to get as much as we possibly can. It's still a good distance. I know it's not 290, but it's 240 feet. Typically, 100 is required in most zones. And we want to make it as buffered as possible. Absolutely.
I know, but it is a 4-story hotel going 250 feet to the house. You know what I mean? Raised up.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to calculate all
and
that.
I'm not against this
Right.
development.
Maybe
I
at the
know
planning board it gets slid back. I don't know. If there's room, they would probably work that for you. Not promising you. I'm just saying that's where you have another opportunity to maybe slide it away a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
All right, Dan. Thank you. Anybody else on the left side of the room would like to speak? Come on up, sir. Good. How are you?
Jim Bay, Ocean Township. The Deal Road side will probably have a 30-foot access road, plus or minus. The buffer there is a 75-foot buffer. Will the access road be built into the buffer? Meaning
No, not count. No, 75. Then the access road.
All right. There's a 100-foot setback.
Mm-hmm.
75 feet plus 30 plus 20 is 125 feet. So if your setback is 100, mathematically you need 125 feet to accommodate.
Well,
75.
when you get about 300
so if you're going to build
feet,
the road in the buffer, that's not really what we're intending.
when you get about 200 feet west,
750 feet.
yeah, that's where it opens up a little bit, and you're going to actually have the one restaurant closer, so that buffering stops right around there.
750 feet. There's
Right.
a 75-foot buffer.
Right, I forget what it was.
Could you change it to a 125-foot setback, please? Because that's what you're going to need to have a 75-foot buffer,
Mhm.
a 30-foot road, minimum 30-foot road, and a 20-foot setback from the road to the building. So could you please change it from a 100-foot setback to a 125-foot setback, which would then preclude putting the road in the 75-foot buffer? Because you're going to have to put the road in the buffer if you leave it at 100 feet.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. It's not on the plan. It's not in the buffer. The buffer is 75 feet, and then the road.
Right, but that doesn't make it into 100 foot.
Okay, I hear what you're
The
saying.
math doesn't
Okay.
work. So
All right, so we'll make a recommendation to the planning board when they get that, because we can't make an amendment now to the ordinance.
Okay, and on the east side, where it says the buffer is
You got
100
that, Vin?
feet from the,
I just want to make sure he's getting this.
Yep.
Okay.
yeah, this kind of, you and I did, Vinny, about 3 or 4 months ago, we worked through these buffers in your office. On the east side, the burns and plantings are going to be 100 feet from the library.
On the east side, we have a 100-foot setback from,
The ordinance says
I think they have,
it's a landscape buffer.
yeah, I don't think the landscape buffer is a full 100.
So he's looking at the right ordinance.
Yeah.
You're looking at the current ordinance.
Could you make a note to check?
Yeah.
Does it current one say landscape buffer? Because if they put the 30-foot patios in there,
Mhm.
we're going to be 30 plus 70, and 30 feet of the 100-foot buffer would no longer be a buffer.
Mhm. Right, we have 100 foot here and then 75 be any other building on the site. Okay.
So Vinny, could you just put a note in there to verify if it's a buffer or a setback?
Yeah, it says buffer.
Buffer of 100.
All right,
Says buffer.
so when you subtract the 30 foot for the patios, we're into a 70-foot buffer. So you need to potentially reword that because it doesn't allow them to put their 30-foot patios in.
Okay.
It would no longer be a buffer.
I got
It would
it.
be a setback.
Right.
I
Again,
appreciate it.
planning board's going to pick up a lot of these errors. This is just,
Well, we're
this is-
assuming it will no longer be an error. It will just be changed to a 70-foot setback.
Right. not, I'm not saying it's an error either. I'm just saying they'll probably increase it to it.
Thank you,
Has
Vinny. I
to fit.
appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Mr. Bay. Anybody else on the left side of the building? Front row, right side? Oh, we have somebody, sorry. Come on up, sir, state your name and address for the record. Remember, we have 3 minutes.
My name is Adam Weisberg, 5 Oak Tree. I'm also a business owner here, so and I'm on right near 35. So I got a couple questions. This ordinance that's before this body right now, the background is it to take care of the lawsuit that's pending, that's going forward by Stop and Shop?
Marty, you want to answer that?
Well, I think that's certainly a factor. I don't think that's the definite reason for it, but I think there is a lawsuit. The lawsuit has been pending on and off since 2005. And certainly one of the benefits would be terminating and ending that lawsuit.
And that
But
is,
I also think that in doing so, the council has tried to look at various different proposals, and there's been a lot of them. And I think recognizing that this, property would be developed, this is a proposed development that is much improved over every single proposal we've seen to date.
right, I've heard you guys say that. What my question is that the lawsuit is by Stop and Shop over spot zoning that took place during 2005. Is that correct?
No,
No, the
What's
lawsuit
the allegation?
has
inverse condemnation.
It's 48 pages, and it has a lot of different theories, including condemnation, inverse condemnation, in terms of the taking of their property to put in the jug handle and slip road and leaving that as the only possibilities, plus other takings involved, and creating a zone that they felt was going to be impossible for them to develop. But that is only, so there are many different counts. One of them is their claim of spot zoning, but there's a lot of different claims in that 48 pages.
When the before the overlay went into effect, it's private property. It's going to be developed one way or the other.
Yes.
The development did call for a gas station. I share the other gentleman's concern about having a Wawa station there. I think that, not to mention it's going to hurt the businesses of the surrounding gas stations already here, and the mini marts as well.
Maybe we should not allow any more lawyers. How about that?
No.
Should we prohibit further lawyers?
No
from
more
coming
Chinese,
down?
no more Chinese
that
restaurants.
would
Would be better for me, you. And
that would
maybe
be
me,
fine
but
for
I'm not
both
hearing
of us. But what I am concerned about, other than the environmental concept of it, is that if the original plan called for development of basic office space and basic retail space, wouldn't we be in better shape environmentally and still have our tax articles if we were to go back to the original way before the overlay?
I'm gonna say this though, Adam, because that's not a legal question. It's really a practical question. Although their plan might have been that permitted uses were still the same, gas station, all that was still in there. The original plan Stop and Shop had. Now, the one big benefit here, bigger driver than getting rid of the lawsuit, is that we reduced the impervious coverage. Stop and Shop had a 90% impervious coverage. The zoning now has an 83.5%, and this zoning has a 52%. So regardless of the use, the coverage, the environmental impact of it all is a lot better.
So it's my understanding that if we were to, the overlay was put into place for Stop and Shop, and the way I look at it. And you can disagree with me, but that's
I'm
how I
not
see it.
disagreeing.
But
Listen,
if we were to go before the overlay, before the days of Mayor Weldon and all the shadow that cast over this town, if we were to go back to the original way, is it my understanding that we would be in worse shape than what Paramount's proposing?
Yes, C2 permitted pretty much everything he's putting there.
But was
Only
the master plan ever amended to reflect it?
Yes, C2.
Well, no, the C2 was the zoning for many, many, many years. Then it became the OI-80, which is Office in Industrial 80 Zone, and the Industrial 80 Zone allowed light industrial uses, and included would be a automotive service station. So, those things would have been allowed. There would not have been the road widening. We wouldn't have had the
Road
applicant,
improvements.
and hopefully everybody can hear me, but the applicant widened the road. That wouldn't be part of it. We wouldn't have had the jug handle and the potential slip road, which may or may not happen, but we will have the road widening to create an extra lane. So that wouldn't have occurred, and we would have had greater usage, more impervious coverage under the oldest zoning. It would have been more impervious coverage, and frankly, this is a much better alternative. That's why the overlay zone was created, frankly, initially, was there a Stop and Shop potential applicant? Probably, but the idea was to create these road improvements, which they thought would help the traffic along Deal Road. And again,
what it has is it's triggered the lawsuit against us.
Well, no.
By Stop and Shop.
What triggered the lawsuit was eliminating the overlay zone, eliminating the original zoning, and creating strictly the C, whatever it's called, 6, or whatever the zone is, that only allowed this use, which then required the applicant to do these road improvements. Under the old zoning, the applicant could have done the road improvements and gotten the benefit of an enhanced commercial use, or he could have developed it consistent with how it was zoned previously.
Well, let me.
Which was also included.
So let's take a look at the Paramount Realty solution.
Yes.
They want to put a four-story hotel
Right.
near residential housing, where those property owners, they could suffer a potential depreciation of their property being so close. You can say it's a football field, but it's 240 feet.
Well, 240 feet is a huge buffer compared to what they have right now between some of the commercial uses on Route 35.
A four-story
and the homes.
for a four-story hotel.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty big buffer.
And then, not to mention the condo units are supposed to be built. I think he said 68 at the meeting. Might have been originally 75, but then
Originally, we had plans for 240.
245.
So what I'm saying is, we've been through this a lot, and we've culled down what the proposal is from what was originally 240 plus units residential, greater impervious coverage in the commercial portion of the property, and now we've gotten to where we are now, and it's a substantially improved plan, and one that is much better than what could have been put in there in the original zone.
Well, let me ask you this, and it's my understanding that the master plan was amended for each of these developments that brings us to here today.
Not necessarily.
Master plan.
Okay.
I think what happens
Doesn't the
is-
master plan have to be amended each
No,
time?
No. What happens is you present it to the planning board,
Right.
and the planning board makes a determination as whether the proposed change in zoning is consistent. Not exactly, it's consistent with the master plan. This was presented to the planning board, and they found this proposal was consistent with the master plan.
Let me ask you another question though. with the lawsuit that's pending now.
You're 33 minutes or
Yeah,
no.
Okay, I'm long-winded. But let me ask you this: the lawsuit that's pending now. I understand that the Paramount Realty is a potential solution to it. Has this council, before you pass this, explored any other ways to settle this lawsuit that doesn't require another Wawa station and doesn't require a four-story hotel?
Yes.
And the traffic jam that jug handle was described by the traffic control expert at the auditorium.
Absolutely. I went and I reached out myself to Meridian Healthcare, and I met with them in their offices. I think it was Wall Township with Andrew Brennan before Mike was even here 3 years ago. And I pitched them on buying this site and setting up a really nice healthcare facility for adult care and all that right on the site. They loved it. Thought it was a great idea. When they ran the numbers, they couldn't do it.
You look, what I'm telling you, Adam, is there have been numerous plans. The Stop and Shop applicants have presented us with other people who've come in to develop the site, and in each and every occasion, they were looked at by members of council and said, no, it's overly developed. We don't want that. So we've gotten down to this point. Is it a never endless proceeding of turning down, everything? This is one that appears to meet the criteria and substantially reduces the development at the site compared to everything else that we've seen that has been proposed.
What other, has there any been settlement negotiations with the Stop and Shop people on this lawsuit other than what Paramount has talked to? I mean, have we looked at any, I mean, at least what he just said, okay? Not just development, but there's any other way that we could settle this lawsuit without having to go forward with the plan that was presented by Paramount?
Well, perhaps, I don't know, but frankly, most of these settlement proposals have been them sending in people with different ideas as to how to develop the property. And in each instance, we said that wasn't a proper way. We didn't like the way that was proposed. And now we have this one that started out with it also being rejected by the council, and with a lot more units, a lot more impervious coverage, and ultimately through negotiation, we've gotten to this point. So this is where we're at. And I think that's the answer.
I think if you look to the right, my right, your left, there's 7 storyboards there.
And they're facing you.
Yeah, you can look at them. I don't want to get into a site plan review here because it's copious. My point is, since 2014, I've looked at 7 different plans. I had them revised. I must have cost this guy $300,000.
By the same guy, right?
Yeah.
But there were plans
well,
before
no.
that.
Before that, I had Avalon Bay come in. He just wanted to put 498 units in. Bang. And then he came in, I'll take half and put 255, and Paramount would develop the commercial piece.
Is Paramount going to have any discharge into the Poplar Brook? Was that brook?
Well, here's the thing. They're going to develop 21 acres. Poplar Brook's 2,417 acres. You know, so less than 1%, and they have to show that they're going to be able to manage their stormwater on that site and not hurt the 100-year floodplain. Like I said, there's criteria 5, 10, and 20, and then 100 years you have to show that you're improving it by 80%. So they have to still meet all that drainage. Just because we're going to have an ordinance that permits these uses doesn't mean he's going to be able to meet these uses.
Would it be smart if we conducted an independent study as to that 1% to protect?
Certainly, you know, when this matter appears before the planning board, and you want to present evidence that the proposal will not satisfy the drainage or the stormwater or whatever, the objectors are free to present testimony. In addition, the town has their engineer who would present testimony.
An environmental engineer?
No, the regular planning board engineer who would indicate and who typically deals with drainage issues, and he will testify.
He's there to protect. He's there to protect the town and watch out for our best interest. But I have to say this: you have some great stuff we could talk about, but I have to be fair to the other folks that want to speak.
Thank you.
But thank you, Adam. You're very good. Good stuff you brought up. Wonderful. Anybody else? Or technician? Or sound engineer?
Marty will be very unhappy, but I can't see him.
Okay.
You can't see me?
Had to move the microphone. Our
All the
production
people who are
crew.
watching.
Our production crew of 1. Mr. Tom Rue. Let's hear it for Tom Rue, everybody.
You know what? We may get a bigger audience if they can't.
He was mentioned in the Grammys this year, but we had viewership of 4, so couldn't get it up there.
We're still on that side.
Anybody else on the left side?
You can't hear. Do I have to go like this?
Yes.
All right, we're going to
Do
start.
people in the back not hear what I'm talking?
We're going to start front row. This side. Anybody have anything? You please.
row.
We don't bite.
Mr. Adio, you coming up?
No.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Second row. Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
She's ready now.
Ready to do this, but I will.
We're ready for you.
My name is Melissa Stryker. I live on 2301 Appleby Drive in Wanamassa. I live in the house that my parents bought in 1941. So it's been continuously lived in by some member of my family, and now it's my turn. I am seeing a lot of changes and a lot of development in this town, and a lot of it's fine, but I think this has just gone a step too far. I think that Ocean Township is losing its character. It was always nice to, like, I worked at Brookdale, I'd drive home, the minute you crossed 35, got into Ocean Township, you could feel that it was cooler because of all the trees. We're down to less than 8% of a tree canopy in this town. The trees are just disappearing. The habitat for birds, small critters, deer is disappearing. The end of Colonial Terrace was golf course was cleared a few years ago, and they're building great big houses there, and the entire area of Wanamassa there is now plagued with the problems with the deer. And it's costing me hundreds of dollars every year for deer repellent, replacing my plants. Not just me, hundreds of houses all around there are having the same problems. I don't see why that isn't going to have the same effect as developing this land is. I've also had deer ticks and had to be treated for Lyme disease because I clean my own property out and the deer sleep in there in the middle of the night. They come in under the bushes, and I clean up and I ended up with deer ticks.
Wow.
These are not things to be laughed at. They're not things to not be concerned about. There is very little natural land left in this town. And it used to be, as you drove down 35, every now and then you would see a patch of woods, and you knew you were in Ocean Township. It was different than every other town. It had its own character because it was like that. And now it's going to be just one big gigantic strip mall. You may as well live in Union, New Jersey, because you are losing what New Jersey is. Right. Look around. I look out my back kitchen window, and there is one tree left. When I look out all the way down Stewart Avenue, there is one tall tree left on my block. I have the other ones, but when I look out, they're all gone. Right. And I don't really believe that permits were allowed to take those trees down. These kind of things concern me. It's not fair to the other people in this town as you're destroying habitat. It affects everyone else. It's not, I don't live on Deal Road. I'm way over in Appleby Drive. But it affects me when this development happens because that's going to spread all over. Plus, the visual appearance of this town is getting to be really ugly. There are empty stores and offices all up and down Route 35. Mm-hmm. Why can't some of that be fixed?
Let me stop you there because you're way past the 3 minutes. And you're a nice lady. We put in about 12 stores in the last 18 months, so that's coming back a little bit. But to say that you can't develop a property until the stores are filled up is like saying you can't sell your house until all the foreclosures are sold.
Well, it's not quite that comparison.
It's exactly
people in this town would like to maybe use the open space money and buy that.
Here's the thing. Let me explain open space to you how it works, if you have a minute. Open space taxes for, of course, open space, right? So recently it was used up in Warren County for Murphy's Farm. Murphy's Farm is 203 acres with 16 hayfields. So Mr. Murphy and Mrs. Murphy, Gloria and Frank Murphy, wanted to preserve that farm, but they wanted to sell it too. They wanted to get the money, but they didn't want it developed. That's a key here in open space. The owners wanted to preserve it. So they went to the town, the county, and the state, and they said, yeah, 203 acres, and it was a fraction of the price of the property on deal on 35, by the way. It was a no-brainer. The county stepped in, the town stepped in, they used the open space tax. They bought a 203-acre farm. That happened here in Ocean Township 3 times. So Welts did the same thing. Mr. Welts over there at Welts Park. He wanted to sell the property, but he wanted to preserve it, didn't want it developed. So the county stepped in, took 80 acres. Town took our acreage, which we have the senior center, the pool club, etc. on. It was preserved that way. We did it again with the golf course. The Cesario family wanted to preserve that as well. So they came to us because that was slated for development. Right behind it, there was going to be a lot of townhomes and houses. So we stepped in and were able to buy that as well. All those 3 projects and those references I just made scored very well with open space tax. With Green Acre funding and whatnot because they were already big pieces of property. So a property on Highway 35 and Deal Road is not going to score well, first of all. Secondly, the owners of the property already made the deal with us there as well. It was 72 acres. And they wanted to develop them, and the Mayor Weldon at the time stepped in and said, we'd like to buy as much as we can. So he got 42 acres, and they said, we'll sell you 42, but we want to keep 30 for development. Okay, so that was the deal. So now they're going to develop 30 acres. We have 42, and it has the Historical Museum, it has the Human Services Department, it has a big field in the front, that beautiful
I go there twice a week for
beautiful.
Things. I'm there all the time.
But we have that. That would have been 72 acres all developed. But we got 42 of it, and we used Green Acre funding for it. So now we're back to this. So now what's left is this 30 acres, and now it wants to be developed. We can employ a condemnation option, which we go and just say, hey, we're going to take it. It's a hostile maneuver. It's condemnation. What we have to do is say, hey, we think it's worth 10, 12 million, whatever it is, we have to put that money in an escrow account. That's how condemnation works, right? The owners of the property can draw that money out immediately, liquidate it, Then they'll ask for a forensic appraisal. If the forensic appraisal determines that the property's worth 20 million, we have to come up with that money, put it in the bank, and then we have to pay. That would cause tax shock in this town. Our referendum open space tax wouldn't cover a fraction of that. The purpose of the open space tax that we have in here was foresight in the event that something happens on this property, because the current proposed purchaser, he's a contract purchaser, he has the first right of refusal to buy the property. If he backs out for whatever reason, his costs are too high, the gas station's going to cost too much, the town was demanded too much, he walks away, we can then move in with that open space tax and pick up maybe a portion of it. Maybe 5 acres, maybe 6 acres with what we're going to raise. But not all of it. That's not realistic. That's probably not going to happen.
Isn't this company the one that just pulled out of Fort Monmouth?
Yeah, so maybe,
Okay.
but at least we're in position in case something like that happens. Maybe he determines that his costs are really too high for this project. 6 months from now, 3 months, he pulls out. We're there.
That's great,
I
but
think
I don't
that-
think the town wants this.
Ma'am,
Why?
ma'am,
Listen,
What about
no-
here? Raise your hand. Who wants this?
Well,
developed?
listen, we're not going to.
Well,
let me say
I don't
this.
think they do.
I don't want it developed, but that's me personally. Me professionally, as the mayor, I have to be reasonable and responsible. It would be irrational and reckless for the mayor and council to go in and try to pick up a $20 million piece of property and burden the taxpayers with that. That's reckless. Personally, I'd love it. I'm in the newspaper stopping the property. You've seen the articles. I'm the reason we're being sued. I stopped it in 2004. Google it.
I
September
know
3rd,
that. I've
24.
done background on this.
So I'm just saying,
I think what the mayor has said, though, and one of the critical things, and actually it was a 75-acre piece of property, and out of that 75 acres, the piece that we got back then was 42 acres, which we paid half of what the developer who eventually bought it paid for the remaining 31 acres. We also got another, I think it's 1.2 acres of land along Deal Road to try to eventually widen the road. So we've already gotten our share and our piece of this property. That's really important to understand. And unfortunately, it happened long enough ago that either people forgot or didn't want to talk about it. But that's what happened back in 2001. And the idea was that happens here. We get our 42 acres. The applicant at the time, Stop and Shop, takes the Henderson house that was on the Turner piece of property, lifts that and moves it. It's now the Historical Museum. Moved it to our property, and then they were going to develop their property commercially as they had proposed. Ultimately, the town changed the zoning, and they never developed the property. So now here we are, X amount of years later, with them saying, okay, the property that we were supposed to develop back in 2001, 2002, whatever, we're now ready to develop in a way that's much more palatable to everybody, frankly, compared to what was previously proposed. So that's where we're at. Doesn't mean it wouldn't be better for some people to say, let's keep it vacant. But I got to tell you, I have people talk to me all the time saying, when is this going in? When's the Wawa going in? What about the Turning Point? There are other people who don't agree that we should keep it the way it is.
I'm sure they don't. They are. I'm sure not
some
everybody
of them
thinks the
spoke tonight.
same.
Right, that's true.
Right.
But thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you so much. Anybody else from that row have anything? We'll go to the next row. Peter? State your name and address for the record. You know, I know you.
Peter Young, 610 Deal Road.
Okay. You might turn that up. Yeah, so we don't. Good, thank you.
You don't have to bend over.
Okay, so we've been here several times with you, and we really appreciate the years of effort you've made. And I think a lot of us who object to certain things, you know, we don't want you to feel like we don't appreciate what you did. And we don't want you to get defensive, and we think, yes, you've really pushed back over the years to get to this latest ordinance to go to C7. From C6 to what prior was 0180, and you've obviously worked with Maurice for 5 years to try and get him to bring things down. And I know Maurice has demonstrated at 2 meetings at the high school that he's willing to make some changes. He's also said there's some things he's pretty firm on, and I think there's some things that you're firm on too. So I've gone over and over this a little bit. I've kind of kidded around about trying to study land use law, procedures, the substantive issues, and also try and, you know, see what we still can do, if anything. So I was thinking you still need to maybe, I know you don't want to, you said so, but maybe you ought to give it a little more time and, postpone. Couple more weeks, couple more months. It's not really going to change anything after 12 years. And the reason I think you need to postpone is I think you really need to review in entirety the master plan. It's from 1990. I think there's been 3 zoning ordinance proposed on that corner in that time. And then each one changes. And every time the planner comes up, he says it's consistent with the master plan, then we go to another one. I think there's some inconsistencies there. I think the original 1990 plan did not have C2. It had the office research. And then we went to C6, now we're going to C7.
C2 was way before that.
Correct. Prior to the master plan.
Research allowed C2 uses as well. Listen, I'm not going to get into that part of it with you. If you have anything germane to this ordinance, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I'm asking you to postpone passing it tonight so that we have time.
It was supposed to have
look
a
at it.
public hearing December 7th, so we postponed it 90 days.
Oh, I didn't know we were supposed to have a public hearing December 7th.
Public hearing was scheduled for December 7th, and I said, you know what, we're going to push it back, give more time for more, try to tweak it a little bit more, which we did. I think we've done a great job. I think you've known that. I didn't see Maurice there. I'm surprised he even talks to me. It must have cost the guy $500,000 since we started this.
I didn't know that the council postponed the public
December 7th was the public hearing it's supposed to have on this ordinance. Now we're at March 8th, so it's been 90
And
days.
in that time, as the mayor said, there were substantial changes made that improved the site plan from, I think, most people's perspective in terms of reducing the impervious coverage and increasing buffers.
Well, I still believe you're inconsistent with the master plan because I was looking at it again, and it says that you should preserve natural vegetation. All right, and bufferings are not natural vegetation. You've done that on the north side.
Yeah,
but
plenty.
you haven't done that on the south side or on the east side with the current zoning.
No, we have. I mean, listen, he can leave what's there as his 100-foot buffering on the east side, which probably will. I'd like to see him supplant more. I'm sure the planning board's probably, I don't know, burst his bubble. If he brings a planning board application, will probably do that. On the east side, he can leave what's there. That's better for him, worse for us, because what's there, the natural buffer, frankly, is garbage on the east side. Nobody can dispute that with me. I drive it every single day, 3 times a day. There's not one nice specimen on that whole 750-foot strip. I'm telling you, it's wrapped ivy around these scruff pines. That used to be a Christmas tree farm. I don't know if you know that or not, but that's what it was over.
I
on
do
the
know that.
north
I would
side.
agree
So,
the east side, but I believe the
what he's
south
going to put
side
in
of the
berms
property.
and better specimens. We're going to get him to make it look Gillette. I mean, beautiful. It's going to look really nice. So it's going to be a lot better than what's there. He would be more than happy to leave what's there as a natural vegetative state. I wouldn't blame him.
It's fine on
We
the
wouldn't accept
35 Carter
that.
side. I get that. I was talking on the south side.
But anyway, that's for planning board. That's not for here. Here we're just establishing the boundaries and the parameters. This much, that much, that much. So if he walks, the next guy in has to adhere to that buffering, that strict buffering, and keeping that less impervious surface, which is very important to the environment.
But once you send the zoning ordinance and you approve it and you send it to the planning board, it's as of right.
Well, I mean, its concept is right there. They're within their right to build that, but they're going to ask for other things. Have you ever been to a planning board hearing?
I have been.
On a big project like this?
I have been.
Okay. Then you know what I'm talking about.
Just understand it, that there is zoning that's part of it, but the other part of it is satisfying the drainage issues and satisfying other issues that come before the planning board that are not necessarily considered in detail at the time of a zone change.
Right. Minute and a half.
Okay, so again, I'm just asking respectfully. I think there also were some math errors that were pointed out in what you're trying to adopt tonight. I think that's also a good reason to not adopt tonight.
Okay.
I could go on and have several more, but I only get my 3 minutes.
Okay.
So
Thank
we'll
you.
go to planning board. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Anybody else from that row? Oh, we're still working on row 3. You can pull it down, Michelle.
Hi, my name is Michelle Crostum, 1318 Vina Ave. I have a couple questions. My first one is, I understand there was an urban tree canopy study done in 2012, and I was wondering if that has been included in the master plan.
Okay.
That's my question.
Oh, okay.
Is it being included in the
Well,
master plan?
we
Is
have
that
a-
something that's being
Yeah,
considered?
when we have a master plan reexamination, that usually gets put in there.
Usually.
Yep.
So
Yes, it's most likely going to be in there. I don't know. I haven't looked at it, so I can't tell you, Michelle.
well, from 2012, I mean, we're in 2018.
Yeah, so every 10 years we have a master plan reexamination. So Marty, do you know?
I don't know the answer. I'm looking at a report
The
from
list.
Jim Higgins, which makes reference
See.
not to a 1990 master plan, but to a November 2009 master plan, and I'm not sure.
No, there's a 2010 also, so I don't know if that canopy study's in there, but it'll be considered. And you could bring it up also at a planning board hearing. I mean, that's where I would bring that up.
I think I will.
Okay.
My next point is
But didn't that canopy study say that we're down to like 38% tree canopy in town?
we're down very, very low. We're
Did
down
it say
below-
38%?
I'm not sure.
It said under
exact
40. They said 40 was
number.
their line of demarcation.
I know we're under
Right.
what is healthy.
Well, it was 40% is what was healthy. I read the study.
Okay.
And we're down about 38.5%. Now we're 7,314 acres in Ocean Township. So 38% is about 2,912 acres of tree canopy. That's pretty good. That's 10 times the size of Playa Park. 10 times.
Yeah, we are also.
That's a lot of trees for an urban town.
We're a huge town.
But I'm saying we're hardly urban.
Well, I mean, trees are also being cut down at like a very, very alarming rate.
Understood. I don't want to ever
So
see
I
one
think
get
it's
cut down.
extremely
but
important that we take that into
It is.
consideration.
Absolutely.
My second point is I also think that we should be postponing this meeting. I think that it would be really nice to have the citizens make a presentation on the benefits or the reasons why this land should not be developed.
Okay, you're making a mistake again. I said it in the beginning of the meeting. I don't think you heard me. If we do nothing, it's developed right now. It's approved to be developed for 83% impervious coverage. I don't think you want that because I know you're on the shade tree committee. I don't want it either. Right now, the ordinance change reduces the impervious coverage, which is environmental friendly and consistent with anybody who's environmentalist.
Yeah, but I'm
down
not
to 52%.
I'm not even talking
So,
about developing at all. I
we-
think that this is a piece of land that needs to be preserved.
I explained
And I
why.
think
Didn't I
that-
explain in the open space tax what has to happen in order to preserve a piece of property like this? I don't know if you heard that, but that's
I understand. I think that
it's
there's
risky.
other
Very risky.
I think that there's other avenues that we can
Okay.
look into. I would like to ask everyone here who would like this meeting to be postponed.
Mm-mm.
Please stand up.
No, listen, Michelle. This is
Why
they'll
can't
have
you
their
do that?
no. This is not a planning board hearing.
I mean, look,
You
look,
just-
the citizens are here.
There's 27,312 citizens. Where are they?
Oh, so far,
Well, I know that there's the opening of the
Right.
musical tonight, so there's probably a bunch of them there.
They didn't know about this meeting.
So if your child is in the musical, they're going to come here instead of go see their kid in the musical?
Oh, that's 300.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Okay, how many
to
people
say.
at the musical?
I have no idea. I don't have a
27,000?
child.
Is it 27,000 at the musical?
We filled this room. I've been to meetings before where there's
I
been
appreciate
4
that.
people.
Okay, I'll let you continue with your time,
well, saying
Michelle.
that you fill the room doesn't mean that everybody here agrees with your position.
No, but I had asked
But-
everyone to stand who,
and some of
who
them
would
did.
like it to be postponed.
Everybody who would like
so
to
we can have a
see.
show of numbers.
Some of them did, and some didn't.
Okay.
But the point
It's
here
okay.
is that we don't, you have a council that gets elected to make these decisions.
Very good. Hey, you know what? I'll stand up. And Michelle, that's easy. I'll stand up too. I'd like to see it.
Okay, but I think that I really, honestly, truly think that
But I don't know if
there.
that's going to happen.
I mean, this is like this is a part of your legacy, right? Of being mayor. You can do something to actually benefit the town where there are a lot of people that maybe cannot show up tonight, right? That do want to preserve this land. We have a brook running through it. There are environmental concerns, and I think that the citizens should get the opportunity to present their case.
They
That's
can.
all we're
At a
asking
planning
for.
board hearing, they can do that.
But that we shouldn't.
Zone
have to-
change has nothing
zone
to do
change
with
something
development.
with
You know what?
The
Young
math
lady.
being incorrect.
We've been doing
Michelle.
this for months and months and months, and there was nothing that stopped the citizens from deciding they wanted to have some type of gathering to do that. There was nothing that stopped that. We've been doing this for I don't know how many months. We've been talking about this one issue. It's been at least since October, November, maybe before that. But go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michelle. You have more time.
I have one more. I have
No, let her finish. Go ahead.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Mayor, did you take campaign contribution from Maurice Zakaria or Paramount from your last campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let me say this to you. Every big landowner in town has been contributing to every campaign in this town since 1963, maybe before. Doesn't mean they're going to get anything. If they did, he wouldn't be through 7 renditions of this property. I cost him more, 100,000 times more than whatever he gave our campaign. Other developers, Middlebrook at Monmouth donates to our campaign every time we run. They still have to go through a planning board process, zoning, permitting. Nobody gets anything for a campaign contribution. Nobody. CV Square Mall, them also,
You
cost them $800,000 more in their application, thanks to me, because they had to redo some engineering. It has to be right. I mean, we have standards here. To even suggest that's insulting, because we have high standards here. Now, people who think it would do it. Thank you. Next person up.
That was actually a good segue for me, because what I would like to postpone this meeting, this ordinance, until we do get to hear the Rutgers study. And on the minutes of last meeting, on the February 22nd meeting, it said that Rutgers, it was on the agenda. It said that Rutgers could not attend because of a scheduling problem. It's right here in the minutes. I reached out to them to find out why they couldn't be here, and they said they were never called. There was never a conflict in scheduling because no one ever called them.
How do you know?
That's what Michelle told me.
All right, well, I called Michelle. She never answered me back. She got back to you. And how do you know Adrian or Vinny didn't call her also before we tried to schedule them?
Well, there was no conflict.
Because I don't think they answered their voicemail.
Well, let me explain this. We would like, before we get into an argument about this.
Yeah, we're not going to get into an argument.
We would like to have a meeting, like Mr. Arbus just said. We had time to organize a meeting. I have been trying for months to have the township invite the Rutgers group here to do a public forum and present in the same manner the developers had the stage to present. We would like the high school, we would like everybody to receive an invitation to learn about the environmental impact that such more development will cause upon our township.
Jackie, I don't disagree with you or them. Anything you do going further in this town, as the one lady mentioned, she's been there since 1941, everything impacts the environment. Everything impacts
But
it.
this is dramatic. It's 32 acres. It's
They're not
dramatic.
cutting 32 acres down. What, you got to get that out of your
But
head.
you're taking mature
The
tree
site is
canopy down to
The
landscape.
site is 32 acres. They're preserving almost 50% of it. That's the best I've ever seen on any commercial development. 50% of it. That's pretty good. Now,
Not natural.
no matter what the Rutgers study says, it's not going to change whether we do a zone change.
But
You understand?
you're not allowing yourselves to be educated on
But we
this. You
can't
don't know.
change. But we
When
can't
peop-
stop, Jackie. We can't stop a development because of what they said. That's not going to
wait.
change anything.
You listen. First off, we just want our time to speak. We want to be given the same respect as the developer. The developer wasn't cut short when they were talking in the high school and told that they only had 3 minutes. This is ridiculous. There are a lot of people
can
here.
come back up to the
Can you stop
microphone.
interrupting me, please?
Sure.
You didn't do that when the developer spoke. Now, there are a lot of people here. They're here in spirit, and they're here because they know it's important. Not everyone's comfortable getting up in front of a microphone and talking on camera and then, having the town watch them. So that's why I get up and speak. And it doesn't make everyone happy. Obviously, Mr. Haas has decided have all these personal reasons. I don't want the development. I live on Deal Road. It's a busy street. I'm not expecting it's going to be any busier. The traffic doesn't bother me. It's the land that I really care about. And I've said this before, and I feel that land in as much as what looks like scrubby land to you. It's the winter now. Somebody just posted on social media all these bare trees saying they're dead. And that's another thing I want to talk about. Someone's going around spray painting trees, and people are cutting trees, I guess, in the middle of the night. And I don't see them cutting, but we see the landscape there getting more cleared out. And I guess my question for you is, who is marking the trees? Is it Stop and Shop?
Maybe
Is
it's
it
the
the
owner of
township?
it's not the township. It might be the owner of the property.
You don't know who's on there spray
It might
painting
be.
trees.
The only one I know is on there is DOT because they're going to do the road and they're making some improvements there. That's the only one I know.
They're going to make road improvements in the forest.
Highway 35 is being paved, so they're out there doing their utility markouts and work and things like that. That's all I know about on that property. Okay. Yeah.
It's not, sorry. It's not DOT. It's not DOT.
Okay.
So I guess I want to know who's paying for the people to be doing the work, because things are getting cut and things are being considered diseased. I hear they're diseased trees. There's rotting trees. Things have to come down. Who's taking them down?
I don't know that they're taking them down. I'll look into it for you. They have to have a permit to take them down. I don't know who's doing that. I
So
don't know
Paramount's not doing any like improvements on the
No.
trees yet.
Nope. No, they wouldn't be allowed to.
May I just say the marked trees are more near the library, not on Deal Road, not on Route 35. And I walked around there thinking that maybe they marked all through that area.
Ma'am,
Yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
unfortunately, you're not gonna get picked up on the microphone.
But I heard you.
It's okay.
But we hear you, but,
I heard
you
you.
know, the microphone.
Well, you know, I'll have Mike will look into it tomorrow. We'll see if we can find out who's marking the trees. But nobody's authorized to do work there. But again, it's still privately owned. If somebody, the owner of the property, went through and marked his trees without telling us, he could do that.
So he could just right now go in and cut down trees. Say the
I didn't
Stop
see-
and
I didn't
Shop
see
wanted
any-
to just take down trees. He doesn't have to get permission to do that?
No, he does, unless there's a dead tree and it's under 9 inches or something. I don't know. I haven't seen any come down. You have to show me.
But someone's marking them to come down.
We don't know. That's.
Could you please check that?
Of course. Yeah, of course we're going to check that.
Okay. So, getting back to the water study, I really think what I would like to request, just like Mr. Arbus said, we'd like to have a public meeting where the people can present. And I could not have Michelle just come. It was, which I had emailed you about. They have to be on the agenda, which you put them on the agenda, which was very misleading because they were never called.
Yeah.
They were never on the agenda. There was no mix up in scheduling, which is what it says in the minutes, because there was never anything scheduled. So,
But there was an intent to do that, Jackie.
but why would you put it on? Why was it on the agenda?
Because I was interested in having him come to a workshop to discuss with us just whatever their study was.
Right.
So I may have asked Vinny or Adrian, would you reach out to them? And between me, him, and if I thought you're going to call, I didn't call. He put them on the agenda at least, and we just couldn't make the connection. So it didn't happen.
I know,
It
but the
wasn't
only way I
malicious,
could get them
but it
here
wasn't-
is you accommodating that. It was a
Understood
tiny
that.
request. But it makes me feel there's a prejudice against the people.
Why would I even reach out to
We
him?
the people.
Why would I
We-
even reach out to him if there's a prejudice?
We,
Why would I do
well,
that?
because you didn't reach out to them.
I did.
They never received an email. You email all
I
the
sent-
time when you want your voice heard.
I sent a voicemail to them also, and she never mentioned that.
She
to you.
said they,
Well, I have it. Nonetheless, I'm not.
Anyway, anytime I've called her, she's been very accommodating.
That's
I
nice.
at times said I'd pick her up. She said, listen, I get paid to come and do these things. I just need it to be organized in a
Okay.
professional way. And I just feel to make a land use change that's as serious and as impactful as this one, we should hear the real study
The
of
current land
how
use-
that's going to affect us in terms of flooding.
Understood.
Honestly, I don't care about the traffic, as I said. I've lived off the West Side Highway. I live on Deal Road. It's about the land. It's preserving what
I
beauty
understand.
is left on this planet, what nature lives within that area. I know it was Indian preservation at one time. I do feel that when I go in there, I feel a spiritual energy, and I think it would just be a real crime to take that down. And what we would like to do, I know you keep saying, what will we do? I think that we could raise money to buy that land. If you do not approve the plans as they are here tonight, if you do not approve this ordinance, which I don't understand, one more question. You keep saying that the gas station has always been on that land. However, it's on this ordinance as a land use change. Why is that?
Morty.
Well, I think the land use changes the entire zone. So the uses that are set forth, the retail uses that are set forth, that's been part of a zone also. Even under the I-80 zone, there's retail uses that are allowed. But we're changing the entire zone. So every use that is going to be allowed is set forth in the proposed ordinance. So even though something was previously allowed, doesn't necessarily mean you don't restate it when you create a new ordinance for the property.
You have to restate it?
Well, yeah, I mean, you sit there and you either say all uses that are allowed in the C2 zone, or you put specifically in there what uses are allowed. But that's typical when you make any change to a zoning ordinance.
But what are we changing then? If everything that we say is on here, you say is already consistent with what was there before, what are we changing?
Well, we're changing a lot, but one of the major changes...
Can you just be specific? Because if
I'm
you're saying
going
the gas
to-
station,
I'm going to
You
be
keep
more
interrupting
specific.
him.
But one of the major changes would be the increases in buffers, the idea of the jug handle and the widening of the road if we're not allowed to put in the slip road. So I don't believe the previous ordinance had anything about the widening of the road. It had the slip road. We've since learned that DOT may give us a hard time for that. So that's why we put the road widening in. In addition, again, the buffers that have been increased over time since this thing was supposed to have a hearing back in December till now, those increases in the buffer are changes to the zone ordinance. So those are specific changes that are beneficial. The reduction in the impervious coverage that has been set forth, that's a change. So there are other changes as well, but that's why they're all in there.
So you're changing it from its most current zoning, which was a shrinking of the original overlay zone.
It wasn't a shrinking of the overlay zone. In fact, one could argue it actually provided more density than the overlay zone. What it changed was it reduced the size of any individual store, but it also provided for residential use above a retail use. So there was you were allowed, I think, 100, and I'm
yes,
remembering what it was, 100 senior units above the first floor of retail. And the retail use was still there, except it maxed out the largest building at 30,000 square feet. Whereas the Stop and Shop overlay zone had a 90,000 square foot unit and 60,000 square feet. They had much larger buildings. And with the buildings that were proposed for Stop and Shop, combined with the parking lot, it was almost all impervious coverage.
Now, that was a wrong deal that was done years ago, which we would have liked to just kind of wipe that slate clean and start from scratch, because then we would just be starting with farmland.
Certainly, that deal, this is a substantially improved proposal compared to that deal. I mean, like 150, 200% better.
Well, I still would like to request for the people that we have, before you change this land use, before we adapt ordinance 2303, I would like for the record to say that until the people have an opportunity to have Rutgers read a study that was just done October 21st, 2017, it's a very current condition of where we're at, because it's hard to remember where all the trees were that were in town, because slowly, you notice they're gone, and you're like, it's getting more and more bare here. And then I guess, the next election, we should probably have the ordinance, the referendum again about open space tax, because I'm going to really resent paying an open space tax if you develop that land, because I don't know where else that money's going to go.
Well, thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah.
So are you going to accommodate us with postponing this?
I'm going to take it under advisement. Thank you.
Well, no, because once it goes to the planning board, you guys are going to speed through it. And then I also understand
Jackie,
that
you had your 3 minutes. You can come
Steve-
back once we go through the room. I'll allow you to come back.
Okay,
up. How's
because
that?
we should get credit points for the people that don't get up and talk. Because you said we only had 3 minutes if
You
it was
had 6.
a full room. But not everyone's speaking, so
Okay.
who doesn't want to speak, we
Okay,
should
I'm
get
going to tell
credit
you.
points.
Fine, thank you. You can come back up. I promise. We're still going down this side, though. I want to be fair. Yes, sir. In the 4th row, come on up. We're down to this side. We'll get to the back of the room shortly. We're just trying to be orderly here. And then.
Well, the question was posed.
Name and address.
Steve Dexter, Ampere Avenue. The question was posed whether there was anyone that supports it. I may be the only one here that does, but I support not only the ordinance, I support you in your quest to try to alleviate our traffic concerns there, which are already existing. The deer population, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I would like to see it go forward. I do. I am sorry that there is no provision in there for 1-bedroom units. I would like to see maybe even an increase in the number of units, but I'd like to see them smaller. And of course, I know that affects the developer's bottom line, and it may not be possible. But I envision that as a great place for the senior population. and it would work in tandem with the Marriott that would allow families to visit and stay there. And if you need any help or would like any help with humanely addressing the deer situation, I'd be glad to help in any way that I can.
Oh, good. I appreciate that. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
You can have extra time.
Don't interrupt
That was
him.
a joke.
Don't interrupt him, Marty. Come back here, Steve. Anybody else from fourth row? Yep. Come on up. State your name and address for the record. I think we're fourth row, fifth row.
Yeah. Hi, Mark Comer, 3 Marissa Court. I back up across the street
Yeah.
from Deal Road. Quick thing I just wanted to clarify. You kept, Chris, you kept talking about the east side of the property being all scrubby. Did you mean the south side of the property? Or did you mean what faces the library?
I'm sorry. I meant the south side. Yes.
Yeah, that's what
Did I
thought.
say east?
Yeah, you kept saying east,
Yeah.
but I...
I'm punchy. I haven't had coffee yet.
That's okay. And Marty, this is solely a hypothetical, and I'm just seeking your opinion on this. So there's no right or wrong answer.
All of the above.
Okay, buy them both. If this ordinance passes, and then the current developer Paramount decides that they don't want to go through with it, where do you think the town would sit in, the current litigation with Stop and Shop?
All right, let me say that.
Good question.
Well, that is a very good question. And I have never seen the contract that exists between the developer and the owner. I would say that most often, when there's a contingency, it's not contingent upon the rezoning, it's contingent upon the approval. So if the applicant, I don't know what would happen if the applicant gets the rezoning and doesn't go through. I don't know what the contract says, and I don't know what happens if he gets the zoning and he's not approved at the zoning board. I can't tell you. But typically, as you know, that's what's the condition in the contract.
Right, subject to the
But I
approvals.
believe he'd have to show a good faith effort to probably, once he's gotten the rezoning, to go ahead with the proposal. But I don't know that for a fact. So that's my opinion, I guess.
But okay, but then taking it the next step, if the developer, for whatever, look, the developer, hope it doesn't happen, goes bankrupt and can't go through with it. Okay, not what they want to do, but they just can't.
Okay.
Okay, so then the township has an ongoing lawsuit with Stop and Shop over the property, how it's developed. So my question is this: would the view of this most recent zoning ordinance change make it worse in the litigation with Stop and Shop for the township? Better or no different?
Well, I think the proposed zoning amendment with a developer who is seeking to develop pursuant to that amendment would probably put us in a better light with the court when we showed, a willingness to work something out with, to resolve the matter. However, let me just explain to you that the lawsuit is now not currently pending, as I've explained in the past, and this has happened. We've been dealing with this since 2005, and the most recent order, and this has happened 3 or 4 times. The case is dismissed, and then they have a period of time to reinstate the complaint. And
And that's where it stands right now?
That's where it stands right now. They have, I think it's September, to reinstate the complaint, and the idea being to see what happens in this process, which would then avoid the necessity of the expensive trial. Now, as a lawyer, because someone wrote something somewhere about, the lawyer trying to get this case settled or whatever, and as you know, I'm paid on an hourly basis.
You ever want to settle it?
So, no, I see, the bottom line is I do want to settle it because I live in this town. My office was in this
Sure.
town for a lot of years. And I want to do what I think is best for the town, and that's what I recommend. And what I recommend to them and what I talk to them in terms of the lawsuit, I'm not going to discuss here. Because what I discuss here with you is then public information that everybody gets, including our adversaries. So the bottom line is, from a legal lawyer perspective, this thing goes to litigation and we take 100 depositions. I make a lot of money. I don't necessarily think that's the best thing for the town.
Well, I never asked that question.
I just figured I'd give you that information.
Now you know how law works.
Thank you for sharing. I already know how
I
it
know.
works.
I'm teasing.
I know you did. That's why I said it to you.
Okay.
You understand.
Okay. And lastly,
But I did answer the questions you did ask, didn't I?
somewhere.
Sort of. Like a lawyer.
Hey, that's what we are, Mark.
I know. I think the markings on the trees, at least I've noticed, there's some purplish, pinkish
Yeah,
dots
pink, I
on
saw.
them. And they seem to be on the larger trees. So I don't know
Maybe
if
they're
those are
saving
ones they're trying to cut down. I don't know if they're trying to save them. I don't even know who
We'll
they
find
are.
out. I saw them recently. Somebody pointed it out to me. So yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't know what the intent is. We don't know yet, but we'll find out.
Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. I think we're in the fourth row still. Come on up.
That's actually the fifth row.
I'm not sure. I can't see.
Debbie Delafave, 2 Isel Avenue.
Debbie Delafave, 2 Isel.
I just wanted to make a comment.
Pull the mic
You
back.
just, yeah, thank you.
Okay, in the fall, we would walk around right where we lived there, and it was odd. There's deer on Darlene
Everywhere.
Avenue during the daylight hours. I just thought that was very odd. And my other thing I wanted to say, when you go down Deal Road and 35, there's a big, huge holly tree with red berries all over it, and right next to us it's a huge spruce tree. I guess it's going to get taken down when you widen.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
too
know
bad.
which ones. Yeah,
It's
there's
just
a
too
couple of
bad.
really nice specimens there.
Really huge holly.
That one, my brother had submitted a picture of it
Uh-huh.
to Rockefeller Center about 12 years ago.
Really? It's
And
beautiful.
they came down and looked at it, but
Uh-huh.
they didn't.
It's too bad.
Yeah, that was a cool tree.
Okay.
I know the one you're talking about.
Okay.
Anybody else from that row, fifth row? Yes, come on up. Oh, yeah.
Stand on your tiptoes.
Ellen Shapiro, Gimble Place, Ocean Township. I guess I'll just say right away, I support the ordinance. I support the proposed development the way I see it, and it's been explained and explained and explained and extremely clearly tonight by the council, and I really appreciate that, is that this ordinance, I see it as protecting us, because if it's not Paramount and somebody else, then there's a much more restrictive use applied to this land, which protects us. If it is Paramount, they have made numerous accommodations, shown a willingness to make accommodations, and if I remember it correctly from the meeting at the high school, there was some talk about preserving one of those trees. I don't remember which one, but it was either going to be in the turnaround or the jug handle or something. They are doing what they can to preserve what they can, and I look at this proposed development as not a pun, but a turning point for Ocean Township. Over the past couple years, we are finally building and increasing what's on the highway. The looks of what's on the highway is far improved over what was there originally. And we can't just go tell Orchard Plaza or somewhere else, oh, you have open storefronts, you have to give it to such and such. There are independent owners of these properties, whether it's West Park and a defunct restaurant or anywhere else. They are owned independently. If Turning Point is looking at this as not only a great location, and each location they're in has done really well in Homedale, in Long Branch, but they want to put their offices here, their corporate headquarters here, then they see something in the township, and I believe it could be the turning point for better looking development along our highway. No one likes change, or they find it difficult to change, but things are changing. How retail works, how the highways work. And again, I knew nothing about this when I first started coming in the fall to any of these meetings. And I was vehemently opposed to it. And as I've heard more and more and learned more about the entire process, the very first step in protecting whatever canopy we do have would be to vote on and pass this ordinance now, and then go forward and let the planning board do their job. And hopefully it's still Paramount, because they're showing a connection to the township and a desire to merge retail, commercial needs with the needs of the people who live here.
Right. Thank you very much, Ellen. Appreciate it. We're at the fifth row, I believe. Anybody? Sure. Name and address, of course, for the record.
I'm Fred Meyer, 11 Chris Place, Oakhurst.
Yeah.
I just had a clarification question from earlier in the meeting regarding the number of pumps being allowed at the gas station. The copy of the ordinance I have says 16.
Okay. Yeah, it's 12.
It is 12?
Yes, that's what's being adopted.
Okay. Also, my copy also says...
Did you get that from here, Chris? Or you
Fred.
pulled? Oh, Fred, I'm sorry. Chris Place, I'm sorry. I
Chris
heard
Place, yes, right.
I hear that great
no, my
name.
wife had this. We've
Okay,
had this.
That's an old one. Okay, we have new copies, folks, of the ordinance for your perusal. Please take one on the way out the door if you'd like, and you can see. It's also on the website, the 2303.
And also the number of units that were being proposed.
70 is what's permitted. I think he has 68 in the plan there.
All right. There's a max at 70.
Right.
Okay, that's all. I just wanted to make that
Okay.
clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Fifth row, anybody else? Sixth row, okay. I bet you're from Chris Place also.
I am. Lisa Meyer, Chris Place. Okay, I had
A little closer to the mic, Lisa. Okay.
I've actually never done this.
You're doing great.
A couple of questions on things you've already talked about. I think we've kind of messed up my original notes because people have talked about so much of this. I came with a petition that people from town have been signing. We have about 300 signatures.
Wow.
And actually there were 2 different petitions and I only got my hands on one of them. So there are probably more. When we were saying about people not showing up, a lot of people don't go to the meetings.
I understand that.
I never knew about the meetings. I never really was involved until recently myself. So anyway, I brought a copy if you want it. I had some other questions. You had talked about in the past that we got this other piece of property, what a good deal it was, that we were able to like slice off where the library is.
Yes.
And all that why can't we do that again? Why are we always talking about buying the whole parcel?
Mm-hmm.
I really understand that Route 35 corridor is a business corridor. It probably will be developed. But why can't we try to use open space money to slice off?
Well, I'll explain it to you. Open space referendum was approved. We haven't approved an ordinance yet. Trying to time everything just right here. And there's a method to our madness. As I mentioned before, the way open space tax works, would be that we'd implement it, do an ordinance, and then we go ahead and condemn a piece of property. But right now it would be a hostile or a condemnation because Mr. Zakaria has a first right of refusal contract, so they can't entertain any other offers. Mm-hmm. He's paid, and he's probably paying quarterly or month. I don't know how he's doing it, but typically he's paying for the right to lock up the property till he's done his due diligence. So the only thing we could do, we could condemn 5 acres, 6 acres. The amount that we would raise by taxation probably cover 4 or 5 acres, realistically, without putting a dent in anybody. At that point, though, he's interested in developing, because I went over it with him numerous times of trying to sell us 5, 10, sell us something, sell us the residential. I've worked on this a while. I got him to throw in 100 feet for free, basically. But basically, he needs the whole 30 to balance out whatever his bottom line is, however it's worth his financial interest in the property. If we're taking 5 acres from or 10, probably wouldn't suit him anymore. The lawsuit continues. It becomes a real mess, and we'll be embroiled in something else. So we're trying to go very cautiously. And as I stated, the purpose of the open space tax, in the unlikely event, or the event he decides he's no longer interested in the property, then we can make our move to go ahead and say, hey, with what we have, we can afford this amount. We're going to take a chance and buy X amount.
Right. And what?
That's why.
Otherwise, what are we? What was the purpose of voting for this
To
open
put us
space
in.
tax?
The open space tax doesn't just involve this property.
Right.
Right, that's
There
what
may
I'm
be
saying.
other
What is it
instances.
for, though?
There may be other instances where open space becomes available. Typically, it's usually smaller pieces, whatever, because there's not enough money in there, to buy large pieces. But there may be small lots or whatever where we can use that to buy open space.
Right.
Sometimes we've actually had developers donate a portion for open space. That's why on the corner of Deal Road and Poplar, in that section, the planning board got the developer of the condominium project there. They gave a piece of open space that has remained wooded. But oftentimes...
So we had no plan for this money.
Well, no.
We just asked the taxpayers to pay this extra money to
No.
put it away for a rainy day.
No. Again, we had no specific, you can't specify a property.
Right.
That's kind of, that's spot condemnation. But it was like Marty said, it can be, for instance, the property next to the golf course recently was for sale, and they were going to put in an adult daycare, and people in the area did not want that. So if we had an open space tax, we would have been able to use it for that piece of property because it's next to the golf course. Instead, I was able to get a developer impact fee and use that money. So still was no tax consequence, and we're buying the property anyway. But there may be other properties that are very contentious, or maybe they abut something that we want, or there's a use for it. We say, well, we can move in on that. You also can do improvements with it to open space.
Okay.
So again, we haven't adopted an ordinance on it yet, and there's a reason. We're trying to time everything just right here.
Okay, so that's one of the things I wanted to know about. My notes are really scratchy.
It's all right.
We had asked you at one of the other meetings about recusing yourself because of the fact that you're a party to the lawsuit.
I'm mentioned in the lawsuit. I'm not named. They tried to attach me personally. I think there's a tort reason they can't do it.
No. Chris is not named as a party to the lawsuit. It's the mayor and council, which is usually every lawsuit dealing with these kind of issues, they sue the mayor and council. So that's irrelevant. His name is mentioned in the body of the complaint because of his involvement in trying to, at that time, one could argue, defeat the Stop and Shop application.
Advocate for my constituents.
He is not an individual party in the complaint, except as part of the council, like everyone here would be a member.
Okay, so you don't need to recuse yourself.
No, he has no conflict.
Okay, how is the spot zoning that we're being sued for, right? I mean, that's part of the whole lawsuit, is that we changed the ordinance at that time, which made it so that Stop and Shop couldn't develop as they had planned to, right? And I thought that was kind of like the whole gist of the lawsuit. How is that? You're shaking your head no.
Well,
maybe
that's
I'm wrong.
not the gist of the lawsuit. That is one of many counts.
Okay.
Like I said, this is a 48-page complaint, and you can read it at your leisure. But the bottom line is,
you have.
But the bottom line is that is one issue of about 10 or 12 issues, and the spot zoning is that. Just to understand zoning law, it used to be that if you made an application before a board, the board, and let's assume you had a ordinance that permitted the use, the council could come in after the application was made and change the zoning. And that was called the time of decision rule, which meant that until there's a decision by the board approving the application, the zoning can change. That was then changed to the time of application rule, where at the time that the applicant files, any change in zoning will not impact that application. And this case, back when Stop and Shop went for their approval, we had the time of decision rule, so when the council changed the zoning, their claim was the rug was pulled out from under them and it was unfair, etc. Right. But that, from our perspective, was a legal issue we were allowed to do.
Right. One of the reasons I'm wondering is because someone here asked about how it would affect our lawsuit if we changed the ordinance now. And I was just wondering, it seems to me like we're also doing the same thing, but we're changing it for a developer now. So wouldn't that impact the lawsuit, or be kind of like the same thing, although now we're doing it for someone?
Hope so. One could argue that, certainly. But the bottom line is we have an applicant who is seeking to develop the property, much like Stop and Shop was seeking to develop the property when the zoning ordinance that they wanted, in theory, went into effect. So, they've argued spot zoning. I've argued that the zone change that allowed them to go in with spot zoning, we could argue, but typically spot zoning is not applicable to a lot that is this large. It's usually small lots where the courts look at it and may determine their spot zoning.
That's pretty much what I saw when I was reading through some of the stuff.
Well, you can explain it to me then.
No, it just seemed like it, but I wasn't sure, and someone asked about that, and if this did fall through, whether or not that would be an argument against us, that we're doing it kind of again. Okay. And I can't read all my notes. So my last thing is, you were asking, or someone asked earlier about something that was wrong or needed to be changed, and you said you couldn't do that tonight. but you're going to vote tonight, aren't you? So if these things aren't changed now, where is the mechanism
At
for
the,
that to...
at the planning board, because of their, a review on the planning site or something like that. In other words, the buffering's in there, and that's good. I think what the gentleman was concerned that,
Right.
that the roads,
roadside
on the
is-
plan's not in the buffering, but the way it reads, it's in the buffering, so that will be at the planning
we're
board.
guaranteed
That won't fall
that-
through a safety net at the
There-
planning.
there- no,
That's what I want to know.
That's
Somebody
what
will
that's
look at
for.
Right, okay.
That'll be picked up there.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks, Lisa. Fifth row, anybody else? In the back of the room? I think we have a gentleman coming up in the back there. Yes, sir. And Mike, state your name and address for the record.
Mike Zemo, 1101 Wanamassa. I'm on, I call it Raceway Avenue.
Roselle.
Yeah. My first question is, has anybody looked into the reason why these gentlemen were told they couldn't do anything down in Eatontown at Fort Monmouth?
No.
Okay, I just thought maybe you guys would know. Anybody there
Not
know the
relevant,
reason
maybe.
why they were denied their variance down there?
We don't know. I don't know that they were denied. I think they pulled out.
I heard they were denied.
Oh. No, I don't think there was a planning board here, Mike. But whatever, not relevant to Ocean, but no, I
Well,
haven't looked into it.
I just would be interested in why. The other thing is, I feel, one thing, a young lady spoke about losing the open space. I see every time one little spot gets taken away, and it doesn't really mean too much to people. But this whole situation, once they build this monstrosity that they're going to put up, which I don't think is needed at all in this township. The only thing I can see it has any reason to be put up is a rateable. And I don't see where that's going to make our taxes go down in this town at all. But the other thing is, you lose that little bit of land. It doesn't really mean too much. Then down the road, years from now, somebody else wants to take a little more land and everything. Before you know it, we're going to be losing all the land that we have, even though it's a lot of it's open land now. And I just feel that you give them an inch, they're going to take a yard.
Right.
One way or another, and before you know it, it's just going to be buildings, blacktop, and cement. But another thing I heard about was is there a study going to be done on Popper Brook for pollution? Is that in the...
Yeah, there's something circulating around about a
I heard about
1999
that.
study, and I'm thinking, gee, if it was that, we've never been notified by DEP or anybody. And
Good.
since that time,
Yeah.
remember now we put the soccer fields in. We
Right.
put up 3 cellular towers. We built a band shell. We did improvements to Palea Park. Homes were built around the area. If it was something, and I've had our engineers look into it and our manager, I would think it was something legitimate or very serious that they would quarantine that whole quarter, the homes, everything. Nobody'd be able to live there if it was
Well,
like
I've
that.
even heard...
Right?
I've even heard the rumor that it had something to do with a cancer cluster or something.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
In town. And I'm just wondering if this study is going to be done, because you got the garages over there on Palea Park.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, and I know those trucks leak all kinds of stuff. And I'm sure that makes it into Popper Brook because they're right next to it. So I'm just wondering if this whole situation they want to build up there, you're going to have a tremendous amount of cars parked there.
Mhm.
And cars leak. I mean, it has to happen.
Sure.
And I can see them, they want to put up barriers and piping to stop. But if you get a couple of storms like we've been having in the past now, in the last few months, you're going to get an overflow of all kinds of stuff into that brook. And then it's going to be polluted. So I just don't think it's a great idea at all to put that up there. And what they're putting there, you look around on all the highway, and you got gas stations all over the place. You got one right across the street where they want to build. You got convenience stores everywhere, so Wawa's not needed. As far as the Marriott, you can't even fill the Sheraton down the road. So, I mean, why is this all necessary? Is there really any reason except this money? Because I think that's the only thing those guys are really interested, because I don't think it's great for the community.
I think a developer, naturally, if they're going to invest millions and millions of dollars on a piece of property, if you were, let's say
But you want to get a good return on that.
There you go.
And
right, so it's not a matter of we don't need, I'm not saying we need it. Listen, the Chinese restaurants, you don't need another one, but obviously whoever's spending the money on it, he feels that that's a good return on them. Like you nailed it. That's really why someone would
I
develop.
know, and it just seems so inappropriate for taking that small area of land that's pretty much connected with everything on that whole
Well,
situation.
it was 72 acres, now it's 30. We did get the 42.
75, by the way.
75, I'm sorry. We did get the 42 of it.
Well, I just feel that it's a terrible thing they're going to do. They're going to cover that up with blacktop and cement forever.
Right.
And it's just a little piece. But I remember as a kid driving up to the corner of Deal Road and 35.
Then nothing.
And there was a nice farm and the Lavender Bull Diner. And that was it on that whole corner.
Right. The whole side.
And now look,
Yeah.
it's like Route 22 in New Jersey.
We built a high school and then homes, you're right.
But it's to me, it's you're taking one little inch by that being given away, and someplace else, something else is going to get taken away. And before you know it, this is not going to be the gracious living that we're enjoying now. So that's all I have to say.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Very nice. Anybody else from the back row? Okay, now we're in the back of the room. Come on up. State your name and address for the record.
Barbara Hudson.
Talk into the microphone.
Barbara Hudson, Wayside. If I understand right, this is a public hearing, right? So I don't understand why we're voting if it is a public hearing. The way I understand public hearings is that you listen to both sides, as that gentleman had a side, another gentleman had a side, all right? And then, you think it over, and then you vote. So what we've been asking for, people that I'm associated with, is a delay, all right?
Could you move closer to the microphone?
A delay, all right, on the voting. Because if it's really a public hearing, that's what you would do. And the other thing is, we don't feel that we've heard lots of arguments for the development. And I've said many times, if we're going to have a development, okay. But we haven't heard the other side. You're hearing a little bit tonight, preservation. And that's what we have to hear. And that's Jackie's point of bringing in people. Let's hear both sides. That's only fair. And it is development versus preservation. And I have said many times, we haven't seen that you really investigated all the avenues. And if you have, and you can prove it to us, well, that's the end of the story. All right. So it's just a feeling of fairness that we haven't had. Now, I also think, you talk about us going to the planning board. You are our council. The planning board operates in very narrow things. If you approve this ordinance, it goes to the planning board. You're our council, not the planning board, all right? And they will judge it probably favorably or, pick out some of the wrong things, but they usually pass it because they don't. It's the council that we have to go to. All right. So, and if you pass the ordinance, they will proceed. If you don't pass the ordinance, they have to stop. So that, that kind of ends it right there in a way. They may not want to go on. So we don't know. Now, you've also had a 2-to-1 vote for open space. That's at least 2,000 people, and I'd like to know where they are. All right. So, we have to have that debate, and we have to have it done fairly. And we've only been in front of the developers. They're very nice people. I like them. And if it's going to be developed by them, if it's going to be developed, okay. But that's not really the issue. And I think you have to really get to the history of this thing, because what's happening now goes all the way back to Mayor Weldon. And it's very interesting because Jackie has brought up this article about Mayor Weldon. It's written by Don Stein.
You woke
Who
him.
was that?
You woke him
Don-
up.
who's that?
You woke him up.
It's written by Don
Don Stein?
He was snoozing back there.
He
Don Stein?
interviewed Mayor Weldon. Mayor Weldon did want to buy this property. Not the 13 acres, but he wanted to buy all the property.
Right.
Now, in the meantime, and as we understood, Mr. Turner wanted the town to have that property. It was the three daughters, the heirs, that came in, and they brought in Stop and Shop. And we get into this big
Right.
mess.
Where they sold the 42 instead.
Right. So, and also, that, if I'm right, that overlay was done, first the attorney resigned, right? Formed the group, and then the overlay zoning was. So it's all connected. And it really, people ought to remember their history, and we see the whole thing in context. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice. Anybody else? The microphone. State your name and address for the record.
Seeing and hearing no one.
No, we have someone else.
Oh, I
Yep.
didn't see. Where's the
We'll come back to you. I'll let you come back.
Hello, Robin Whitney, 1103 Brower Boulevard in Wanamassa. I'm here in many capacities. Firstly, I'm an environmental activist since 1970, the first Earth Day, when I defied my dad, you might remember him, and walked to school from Brower Boulevard to the Dow Avenue School to commemorate Earth Day. Now I'm the faculty advisor to the Stevens Institute of Technology Environmental Club for many years, and very active therein. In any case, my big picture question is, given the fact that we did have this quasi-referendum in November and it's a 2-to-1 vote, you mentioned about $4 to $5 million tax revenue that might be raised. Why not look to leverage that kind of money to the county as well as the state, particularly given the fact that our new governor seems to be rather interested in things environmental? Has there been any consideration?
Yes, so I mentioned that you walked in late.
Yes, I'm sorry, my trains
No,
were
problem.
almost all the trains out of Hoboken were canceled today.
No,
so I
no
got
problem.
here by the skin of my teeth. It really was a tough thing to get here today, but
Okay,
I'm
so
here.
I answered the thing about open spaces, and I mentioned the Murphy Farm up in Warren. It just happened recently.
Okay.
It's a 203-acre farm with 16 hayfields. And so they want to sell that to the town because they wanted to sell it to the town. Developer didn't, they want it. The owners wanted to sell it to the town. So the town, the county, they all worked out that, yes, we'd get money. First of all, the 203 acres was a fraction of what our 30 acres would be. A fraction. So, of course, the county and the state, well, that looks good on our record. Look, we saved 203 acres versus 30 for a fraction of the cost. They're more interested in volume than they are what the place is, I believe. So that was an easy lift. The reason we have that open space tax, and like I said, it raises about $450,000 a year, not $4 million, but it would buy something about 8 times that value. That's the factor you would use. So you'd be able to maybe grab 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 acres, depends, but it'd be a hostile take because right now he has the first right of refusal to purchase the entire property. The whole 30 acres fits into his plan, not 27, not 20. I tried, and he'll tell you I tried, and we weren't talking for a while, but we tried hard. Listen, I'm an environmentalist where I started. Everybody knows I don't want it developed either, but it's not. That's my personal choice, but not my professional opinion. I just can't operate that way. So it would be a difficult takeover. The best thing we can do with the open space tax is have it poised in place in the event that he decides he no longer is interested in the property for various reasons. The costs are too high. They're breaking his chops at the planning board. Or we gave him those 7 renditions we made him go through, cost him too much money, not doing it. Then we'll go in and try that process at that point. That's what it's for.
And I think in addition, though, the question you asked about, the going to get a grant or whatever to assist in the purchase, I understand, and I think you do understand, that this was originally a 75-acre piece. And we got that grant. And when we asked for that grant, I'm guessing based on the articles everybody points out, maybe the mayor was hoping to buy the whole thing. But he got a grant that was enough to purchase the 42 acres at half the price of what the developer then paid for the other 31 acres. So the county looked at that and said, okay, you want to purchase the back piece that will then connect to Palea Park. They gave us money to do that, and then the front piece was going to be developed. That was the understanding at the time it was done, back in 2001. In addition, the back piece then became, as you know, the library, the Human Services Department, the Historical Museum, which was then, and I'm being repetitive and I apologize, but you came late. But
She heard a lot of it.
I know a lot of what you're saying, and I didn't come late on purpose. Okay.
I'm a kid. But the bottom line is that the Historical Museum, which was moved by the then applicant onto our property so that we could use that for the Historical Museum. So there's a long history to this piece, and we did get grants to purchase that back portion of it. And that's what they agreed to do at the time. And now to sit there and say, okay, let's lop off another piece, I don't think that's happening with the county or anyone else.
Thank you for your explanation. I'm all too aware of the circumstances that you've just presented. And as a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, I often work in the library on Saturday afternoons. And I was sitting in the quiet room looking over the water tower, and a family of deer came by, and it was so bucolic and wonderful and beautiful.
Yeah.
And I put a picture up on Facebook, and I said, if this development should go through, how much longer am I going to be able to enjoy this sort of quiet when I really need to be focused and, and what about not so much for me, but what about the animals and the natural environment surrounding. So that's my editorial, but one final question. I kind of did an informal poll a couple of weeks ago in anticipation of this meeting at my gym and at my church. And it seems that a lot of people in this township think that this is a done deal. And you, sir, earlier said everybody agrees, and I don't remember the exact verbiage as to what everybody was agreeing to, but it seemed as if we all think there are benefits here. And while there may be benefits perceived by some, a lot of us don't find any benefit to this plan.
Right.
And I'm really, really, really concerned. And I'm a marketing person at heart, besides many other aspects of my professional career. And the messages that are being emitted about the situation, and as they're being received by, as I said, this informal poll, but a lot of different age groups of people. And one of my yoga buddies is right here. She can attest to it. It's as if, oh yeah, that's going to happen. Is it going to happen? Are you convinced this is happening?
Well, it has to go before a planning board, any application. All we're doing is acting on a zone change.
So that's my question. Is that happening tonight?
Yes,
It is happening.
it is.
And there's nothing we can do to change your mind.
Well, we're taking advice from our attorney under the situation and the litigation and the various other factors, not just that, but, listen, like I said, I don't want anything developed. I'm happy the way it is. I wish I could change that personally.
So the answer to my question is there nothing that we can do? The answer is no, there is nothing we can do.
Well, you can show up at the planning board meeting and do the same thing. And
No, but for your vote tonight.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Anybody else?
Oh.
Will the planning
Yes,
board
sir.
even address us? Like last time they basically told us.
Yes, let me explain that. The last time you went to the planning board wasn't really the opportunity to speak. That was on the examination of a zone change, whether it was consistent with the master plan. When they have an application, just like they did with the yeshiva and all that, it was zoning board, but you would also, they'll go through a process, they'll have testimony, then they'll have the residents can come up, they'll have a public portion. Absolutely. Okay.
My name's Barbara DeCastro, Wayside. I don't have a copy of the proposed ordinance,
Okay.
but I read the one in the newspaper and the public notices. Please clarify for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a 25% open space requirement in the ordinance?
Right.
Which
Okay.
sounds good, but then further down it says, any walkways and seating and benches on the sidewalks count toward open space?
I think they're trying to take the space from being developed into retail or stores And maybe some of that, Marty, is that what's in there?
You know, my recollection is 25% is open space. There's provision about cafes and restaurants providing outdoor seating areas. I'm not sure. I don't believe that's part of the open space. But my understanding from listening to the mayor is that almost 50% or more is non-impervious coverage. Is that
Right. Correct.
Okay, but I think we should nail that down. We need to be careful about the verbiage that's in this ordinance. And I really, really do recall reading that
It does say
walkways through the parking
He-
lot
he- I think
count
he
as
found
open
it.
space. And it's like, what?
It does say that.
That makes no sense. And restaurants are encouraged to have outdoor seating in cafe areas. So earlier they say outdoor seating areas count as open space. So is this cafe with tables and chairs going to be open space also? We have to be very careful.
Right.
Detail is important here. Another question. I'm concerned. I know this, the canopy, the shade tree. I love trees. I live in
Me too.
Wayside. You know, we had to take down a tree and it killed me to take it down. The nightmare on West Park Avenue, which was clear cut for all of that senior housing, that's an abomination. These little bumps with fir trees that are planted in sticks, that doesn't replace the canopy. That doesn't help. We really need to hold people's feet to the fire. Can we put something in any ordinance that you vote on, that the planning board works on? I don't know who comes up with the final verbiage about what's allowed, what isn't allowed, to stop clear cutting.
Yeah. I was
it
at
hasn't stopped that development.
No, I know. Well, actually, they had 80 acres. They worked on 20 of it. I know it looks, but it doesn't look good. But it really was 20 of the 80 acres. Try to keep them contained into one area. But yes, we can tweak, and even at the planning board, not give so much waivers as far as the tree waivers and things like that to really hold their feet, to encourage them to keep as many trees as possible on every site.
'Cause
So
I
that's
know-
something we can do.
and I
Asunder
know-
from this, that'll be it, in our tree ordinance.
And when it comes to protecting the trees, there is that one beautiful specimen. It's a deciduous tree.
Yeah, did you see
It's there, and it's like, yeah, that's got to come down.
Maybe
because-
not. No, there's
I
know,
sure
and there's a
hope
nice
it can
and there's a
stay.
nice grove on the eastern. I got it right this time. On the eastern portion, there, that hopefully that probably will stay too. But I did see the one big. There's like a 200-year-old oak there. Will probably be in the circle.
Yeah,
is good.
hopefully
Yeah.
it will survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a beech. I don't think it's an oak. But also, people say the vines are going to choke it. Yes, vines are not good.
Yeah.
But there's a small group of us that's going over to Palais Park in April, and we cut down the
Yes.
vines. You try to clear it. Things can be done to help preserve the trees. And-
Absolutely.
because landscaping berms do not.
No, I
replace
understand. It's just
old growth.
I thought it'd be better aesthetically, so when folks ride down Deal Road, you don't have to look into this development. So I think right now it's a lot what they call bones. When you look up and you don't have green until it starts up a little higher, you're looking into the bones of the tree along that southern portion right now. So
I don't know what southern portion you're talking
Deal
about.
Road,
Right.
that's the southern portion of the property.
Deal Road is the southern portion, yes. I
That's
got
what
you.
I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Okay, please be careful with the verbiage.
Mm-hmm.
Double check that open space. That should change. We shouldn't count sidewalks and park benches sitting on a sidewalk as open space. Do you guys have influence into that?
Well,
You're
that
voting
would-
on it.
That would be. Well, here's the thing. Let me clear this up. This ordinance right now, and I mentioned it 7 times. I'll mention it again.
Well, some of us are slow.
No, it's not about that. But I think you have to understand that if we don't adopt this ordinance and we leave it the way it is, it's got an 83%.
I understand that.
So even though that has that in there as 25% of the open space, it's still better than what it is now by about 30%. So I'm comfortable leaving that in there. Maybe at the planning board, they can tweak it more and say, well, we want you to give more plantings here. But they'll probably do that if you show up there.
Strike. Why is there a statement? Somebody very specifically wrote that walkways in the parking lot count as open space. Somebody thought of
It
that.
doesn't say, I mean, and again, I'm not sure what the definition is, because we have a planner who developed it. It does say pathways, which could be natural grass. I'm not sure what that is.
Pathways through the parking lot.
They can't hear you, Marty.
Are we going to have unpaved pathways through the parking lot? I don't know.
It does use the word pathways within the parking areas. Courtyards. Right.
And seating areas, and they encourage outdoor seating areas. You know what?
It says plaza
need to
and
be
functional
careful.
landscape areas.
Plaza
It
and
refers
functional.
to
So
seating
yeah.
areas and pathways.
So
Which I think they're talking about landscape pathways. I don't think they're
Right, what
talking
they're
about.
talking about is pathways that are porous, so that they want that to count.
Not sidewalks like where
but the
I think
plaza areas and seating areas, whatever.
I
We
understand your
need to be
concern.
careful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the back of the room? Come on up.
Joan Dameray, 1633 Melville Street, Oakhurst. I did have a question about the section where you were referring to the gas station in the rezone. There is a mention of gas station, and I guess you had alluded earlier that there's always been the allowance for a gas station because it's on Route 35. Obviously, there's other gas stations. I do see the attachment of a convenience store. A lot of the gas stations we have in Ocean Township right now do not have convenience stores, which changes the whole scope of what type of gas station gets erected. Most gas stations now won't come in unless they can have the convenience store attached. So was that a direct change from the previous?
I think we actually changed the zoning where gas stations with convenience stores were allowed in other zones. I don't remember specifically.
Because it seems to me like the C designation, I don't even know how you refer to it.
C2?
The convenience store part of adding the gas station wasn't in the previous version. And now it allows for a convenience store, because if a convenience store was allowed in Ocean Township attached to a gas station, trust me, all the other gas stations on Route 35 would have a convenience store. They would have already done that. They would have come in that way, even in, back then. They would have said, well, of course we want to, because that's where they make a lot of the money, is on the convenience store. So I'm just curious if that was like a direct change from the previous.
That is a change in this ordinance, but
Yes.
I do believe we also, and I'd have to look, but I do believe there was a general change allowing convenience stores with gas stations.
Where?
In other
In the
zones.
mass-
I don't know.
Okay, because
I'd
that's
have
a
to look.
significant issue, only because this would not be attractive to someone like Wawa if they couldn't have the convenience store. I'm
Absolutely.
opposed to the gas station. I'm not opposed to this getting developed. You've seen me here before.
Yes.
Let's be realistic. And I do live very close to the back of where the Marriott will be if it comes to fruition. I'm also not a fan of the 4-story hotel. But I'm not opposed to the site getting developed. I'm realistic. And can you clarify, you're talking a little bit about a slip road and DOT. At the last meeting I was at, the slip road was actually getting promoted as a positive point of this development, meaning that some of the cars could feed off of Deal Road heading west, go through the development, which I thought was odd because as a residential neighborhood, I don't know why you would want, through traffic coming by your condo that you just paid $450,000 for, but then the cars were supposed to spill out on 35 going north to eliminate the bottleneck at the corner. So is there now an issue with the slip road?
I think the initial proposal, both in the, Stop and Shop application, and initially in discussing this application, I think the original proposal was trying to get a slip road that would, at the same point where the jug handle is, right, when you come to come close to 35, you'd go off a slip road and you wouldn't be going through any
It wouldn't be a
development.
hard right. You're saying this
Right,
way.
it's sort of like an angled right, but you get cars off of Deal Road. When it became apparent that that might be a problem because of the different driveways, et cetera.
Okay.
I think the ordinance provides, make the effort for the slip road, but if you
But
don't
it's not a requirement right now.
it's a requirement that they make that effort to get the slip road.
They're making
But
an
if the
effort.
DOT doesn't allow it,
Okay.
I think is the way it's worded.
Right.
If the DOT doesn't allow it, then you will agree to widen Deal Road so that now we will have a third lane on Deal Road so that vehicles will stay on Deal Road.
I guess I thought there was going to be 3 lanes and the slip road.
No. No. They had there is an interior road that someone said you can cut through, but I don't know that it's going to be used like that. But then there's a slip road in the ordinance for them to pursue that first, just like you have on the opposing corner by Food Town.
Okay.
You can cut right
I
out
mean, these
to
sound
the
like sort of silly
35
questions,
south.
but
No,
these
they're not. No, that's all right.
details with this particular
Absolutely.
ordinance, you've made specific changes, and obviously you've spent a lot of time on this for
Right.
years at this point.
So that was the intent of that, to try to get that as a better option.
Okay.
If not that, third lane, etc.
Okay, so now, can you leave the residential portion of this developed property without going to Logan Road? Like, can you leave your condo? Are they
Yes,
condo?
you can go out to 35.
You can go out to 35.
And you can get into it from 35, just
and you
like the
can get-
Grove.
So
in
it's not going to be
Shrewsbury.
closed off where the residents are here. So you can sort of leave your residence and go into the meat of the place where
Yeah.
the retail stores
Right.
are and get out. My only concern, there's not a lot of distance between Deal Road and West Park Avenue. So what happens is as you know where I live, if you come out of town, Mitch, unless the light is red at this corner, you can't get out. You have to wait for a break in traffic. So what's going to happen is, as soon as the light is red over here, all the cars are going to be exiting this busy, and it's going to be busy because it is a gas station, coming out. There's never going to be a natural break in traffic before everybody has to come to another stop at the next light, which is West Park, because they back up.
Yeah, traffic.
Sometimes past where the nail stop is. You know,
Yeah,
it can
backs
be
up.
backed up. So
Yeah, I've seen it.
the traffic flow, hopefully your engineers will figure out somehow to naturally break that traffic pattern, because the people are going to be constantly coming in and out of the development north of the intersection.
Well, that will be something that would be considered at the planning board.
But
in
I'm
terms
telling,
of-
I guess what I want it to be considered, because as somebody else said earlier, this corner has to support this size of a development. And so you don't have a lot of space there at the end of the development before you start getting into another light. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Right now, I'll say this DOT's study for Highway 35, the 17 miles from here to past Middletown, Ocean Township moves the best.
Although I will say this, that the most accidents occur between the two circles,
Yeah.
between Eatontown and Asbury. I know that for a fact. But anyway, you can't do it, you know, you can't stop
Right.
progress. I just have one more question. I know you've gotten feedback from the Department of Transportation. Has there been any formal feedback from the Department of Environmental Protection at the state level?
I don't think, basically, when they go for an application before the planning board, part of it is for them to get their feedback from outside agencies,
Okay.
which would include the Department of Transportation
Okay.
and the DEP.
So that the burden is on the developer,
Right.
I guess, at
Yeah,
that point.
they present plans and they look at those plans.
Okay. And then the only other question I had is, I had asked originally if there was going to be second floors throughout the complex. I was told that the second floor on Turning Point's piece, if they put their corporate headquarters there, that's the only place in the development where there's a second story on those parcels. Is that still the case?
Yes.
There's no second floors on any of the other structures that can house or utilize
Other
people
than
or
the ho-
businesses?
No, the other two.
Well, obviously the hotel, but
Oh,
the
right,
other two, no, because there's two, retail units in there, one floor.
Sometimes
Then-
when you look at the schematic, it appears as though there's second floors, unless
Well,
those are just
I think that's
decorative.
architectural.
Well, I'm just asking because that's more square footage that you're
Right.
trying to
Yeah,
put
no,
out as
there's-
retail space, which will create more
That's the only one that
parking
has a
and
second
cars.
floor use.
And then, will there be any connecting footpath between my neighborhood and this development? Is there anything on the plan to provide for residents to be able to traverse from our neighborhood
There
back
isn't.
to the
Is that something you would be
library?
interested in?
I'm not sure. I was just
Okay.
curious if
That
it
would
was,
require
if it was
a-
considered.
That's not, I haven't seen on any plan. That would be something.
Because right now, we all live over there, and we actually can't get to the library
Sure.
on foot.
You have to get a DEP approval.
You
for
need
that.
a footbridge.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm. You have to get DEP approval to cross the brook.
Although it would be nice if we could.
Yeah. We'll look into it.
And so my final question is, I understand there was discussion about the lawsuit, and we all understand that story. It is possible, Mr. Orbis, that we could develop the corner of Route 35 and Deal Road and still be held accountable for damages from this lawsuit. I guess my point is by passing this ordinance, it makes the trial go away. It doesn't necessarily make the lawsuit go away. Meaning, there's still provision that Stop and Shop can come back to the township, and I've asked this before, because as a taxpayer, they come back and now we have to pay damages. That will affect everybody who lives in Ocean Township, correct?
Right. And I believe the understanding certainly is that a resolution of this matter will, I believe, resolve the entire matter.
So they're not going to look for damages for after all these years of sitting there making no money? It's just hard for me to believe that.
Don't
I know
remind me.
you told me that before, but I'm a little skeptical of that.
Okay. We'll see
Only
what happens.
because they're there, like you said earlier, to make money. And so they've wasted a lot of time and energy in the Township of Ocean. And I can't believe you're just going to go away because they've gotten someone to buy their piece of property.
Well, they got somebody to buy their piece of property at a figure that I guess they feel resolves
Is enough for their time and trouble.
Resolves their issues.
Okay.
Because,
Understand.
I mean, understand, it's not like all of a sudden they have a claim for damages. We'd be in a
Right.
lawsuit and then we'd be defending the lawsuit.
Right.
I don't anticipate that happening.
Okay, but it could. Because in
Anything's
fairness
possible.
to everyone in the
I don't
room who
believe-
hasn't been paying attention, there is a idea that if this goes through and this proceeds, it stops the lawsuit. And in
That-
most people's mind, that means the Township of Ocean taxpayers are in the clear on this matter. And we can't really say that to be 100% true, because we don't know, like you
Until
said.
we have a resolution, but I believe that's the understanding.
Okay.
I can't
I'm not pushing you because I know the answer, but for the benefit of everyone here, like she had said, you ask people in town, that's what people ask and that's what people say. And so as a taxpayer, what you don't want is to say that. And then a year from now, you're going to read an article that says Ocean Township had to make a payout to whoever the owner is. Like, let's keep calling him Stop and Shop. I know it's not really germane to
Right.
this ordinance.
Okay, well, I
but
think he
fair
answered-
enough, there's
he
enough
answered-
people in the room
right,
here who are
that heard it.
interested. So I appreciate
Thank you,
it.
John.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Come on up.
Ann Foster, 910 Berkeley Avenue. I was at the Paramount meeting in December at the high school, and at that time I voiced one of my concerns about this development being the impact on the traffic on Logan Road. I specifically expressed my displeasure with the egress and entrance that's at the intersection of Logan Road and Deal Road.
Speak a little closer. Okay, good.
So I had asked if there was any consideration of making that maybe pedestrian only, pedestrian and bicycle, and leaving the other entrance and exit, which is further up between that intersection and Route 35. And I was told no, that was off the table. So then I had asked about traffic on Logan Road, specifically commercial vehicles coming down Logan Road. Because, where Berkeley is, right off of Roselle. And over the past 20-something years that I've lived here, I have noticed that Route 35 is beginning to encroach on Logan Road. It's like a little bypass road now. People just cut off down by the English Manor, go right up to avoid traffic lights and traffic volume and all that. And so I am concerned, should this all go through, about commercial vehicles, whether they be garbage trucks, delivery trucks, maintenance trucks, whatever kind of, I don't know what's involved with maintaining a residential property of that size, commercial property of that size. And I had asked about an ordinance or something, some kind of prohibition of those type of vehicles on Logan Road, specifically.
Okay, so we can consider something like that, but we have to think it through because somebody on Logan Road wants to move, they need a 53-foot trailer to come and move them. And so we put a 5,000, 8,000 pound limit, that precludes that. Now they got to move, their entire house, by carload. So you got to think about it that way. I hear what you're saying. I live a few blocks away from you there, and I use Logan Road all the time. I personally don't see, other than the ones who come now that want to go to Monmouth Road or something, they're going east, they're always going to use that Logan Road, it looks like, as a
Right,
a
but
way to get off.
can't you reasonably anticipate an increase in the traffic now that you have, it goes right through.
No, here's what I think. Living here all these years and driving all the time, I'm not here to argue with you, you're probably right. But if I'm on Highway 35 at the circle, and I just hit Highway 35, and I know in 60 seconds I can get to the corner of Deal and 35 on Highway 35, why the heck would I get off on Logan Road and go through all that residential area, get behind a school bus, stop here, stop there, to get to that development? Anywhere in that development you want to go, and if you're on 35, you're going to get there so much quicker on 35. Even residential, you can get in from
I'm going to say
there.
that remains to be seen.
I'm just thinking about myself driving a car, what I would do.
Right, well,
Unless I was going east to Monmouth Road, that's what I would use Logan
or if you were
Road
going
for.
straight into that
I would
development.
still, if I live there,
I don't know.
and I can get there, and,
Not
like I
if
said,
the gas station is plugged up with, you know,
but there's an
vehicles.
entrance specifically for the homes. I mean, it goes right in to
But
the
it's not
residential.
exclusively for the homes.
No, but I mean, it's an easy access, just like the
That was
Grove,
another thing I
right? The
thought
Grove
of,
right
putting
now.
a gate
Or
for the
maybe
for the residents. I don't
Maybe in
know
the
if
back they
that's,
could do that.
you know, a possibility.
Yeah.
And then one of my concerns with that is, you know, we spend all this effort and a little bit of money trying to make Logan Road more pedestrian and bicycle friendly. We put in bicycle
Yep.
lanes. You know, there's more and more pedestrians on that road all the time. The sidewalks have been put in, and now we're going to have, well, this more traffic and large vehicle traffic too, which is very concerning.
Well, again, at the planning board, the traffic engineers are going to have to discuss that. Again, my view,
Right.
living here, I still think it's easier to take 35 to get into that site regardless. I think people taking Logan are really heading east.
Well,
Because they can't
yeah.
go straight now anyway, so the traffic that's there is probably
But
going east.
that's my point. You can't even go straight now, and I still see traffic that comes
Right.
up Logan Road.
That's gonna be there.
When you can go straight, it's going to happen.
I think I think from like Marissa Court, Dwight Drive, people who live there, and if they want to get in there, will probably go through that light. You're probably right about that. But I think it's traffic already there that's going to encounter that corner regardless.
So, what is the mechanism for
At the
looking at
planning
putting
board, they
some
can-
kind of a vehicle restriction? on
Oh, we
that
can
road?
have our planners
That's
look
something
into
you
it.
guys
Yeah,
would
yeah,
do.
we're gonna.
Right. That's why I'm
We'll have it look
asking
into
for-
that. The realistic if that's possible.
And then the other thing I wanted to ask, I know it's getting late, but I'm trying to be quick.
Here all night. Try the veal. It's
I
delicious.
don't want to be. To everyone's point about we're going to pass this resolution tonight, and even though we're all here and we're speaking our minds and asking our questions, it's pretty much a done deal. Which is pretty much this resolution tonight
The
is pretty
ordinance.
much a done deal. Yes, ordinance. But some things have come up about, I don't know, 75 feet or 750 feet of a berm or whatever, and something about 25%. Is it patios and walkways or is it actual green space? And there seem to be some things that aren't quite in order. And so, I mean, I know it's long, it's drawn out, it's been delayed already, but don't we, don't you want to get it right before you pass it?
Well, we think it is right. It's in the ordinance, and what I
But
think
the
is
people have just identified.
they identified
several-
something that will.
They might be small,
by-
but a lot
by-
of small things makes a big thing.
Right. By math, they couldn't develop it the way it is in the ordinance, so it would have to be amended or something at the planning board here, and whoever comes there will say, and by the way, this is not included in the buffering because it's outside on the plan. It's already shown that way.
And the piece on page 3 about the 25% of the track being open space, including cafes, restaurants, outdoor seating.
I'm comfortable the way it is because it's
You're
reduced.
comfortable with that in
I'm
the-
very comfortable, and I'm going to tell you why. Right now, if we did nothing and somebody wants to build on it, it's 83.5% impervious coverage. Whatever plan we have in here in the ordinance is 52. It's an improvement. However they word it, it's still an improvement. It may not sound the best, but it's still an improvement, and that's our goal. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Young lady, you want to come up? State your name and address for the record.
Melanie Nolan. I'm in Edgemont Drive in Lock Harbor, but I'm a property owner and taxpayer in Ocean Township, also 605 Laurel Avenue, West Allenhurst, where I used to live. Anyway, first of all, when you were talking before about not that many people showing up for these meetings, how do people know about these meetings? I've never once seen a sign on the signage in front of the...
Typically...
I've never seen a paper about it at the library. I'm in the library at least once a week. There's notices for everything. I've never seen it. Had I not gone past the sign on Deal Road, I never would have even known about this.
Oh, it was on the
I've
sign?
spoken... Pardon me?
It was out there on Deal Road on the.
The sign.
Oh, I
the
got
sign
you.
in front of
Okay.
the house on
Got you.
Deal Road. Right.
No, I was wondering what sign it was.
Had I not known, because there's no sign here, there's no other way of knowing about this. I've spoken, I'm still friendly with a lot of people in West Allenhurst and my own neighborhood. None of them knew about these meetings. They thought it was a done deal, like this woman said. It's really, when something's being considered by the town, it would be nice to let people know that they can come out and make a comment on it. The other couple of other things. One is There's 5 gas stations that I can think of offhand within 1 mile of here. We need another gas station.
Never said we did.
Okay, I'm just
Never
bringing
said
that
we
up because there was a woman at the last meeting at the high school who actually suggested, which she was so thankful for the fact that there was going to be a convenience store there where she could go get lunch for her children. Well, I'd like to bring it to her attention that there's 9 grocery stores within 1 mile, 3 across the street. 3, and I'm not even counting the Chinese restaurant across the street and the bagel shop, but there's 3 that she could walk across the highway or drive over to, so maybe somebody needs to give her a map with them listed. Anyway, the other thing is, since I live in Lock Harbor, I participated a long time ago there in an attempt to get a tree ordinance, and it failed. And unfortunately it failed because now we hardly have any trees in Lock Harbor at all. Wow. And many of the people who were opposed to it at the time, who were longtime residents, have since come to me and said, you know, Melanie, we were wrong. We should have gone for that tree ordinance. But it's a little too late after the fact. After the big trees are down and you've got little arborvitaes and...
we have a tree ordinance.
Well, I hate to say it, but I agree with some of the people here. There's a lot of trees that seem to come down in Ocean Township miraculously. I don't know how they disappear. Maybe somebody, a leprechaun, comes around during the night and takes them. And the other question I have is, this gentleman stood up before and mentioned that he knew a humane way to get rid of all these animals that are going to be laying dead on Highway 35 and Deal Road. I'd like to know the humane way that he knows about. Is he going to go in and lift them all out and carry them over to somewhere?
No.
Because I saw what happened. I'm sorry, but I saw what happened in Princeton Township some years ago when they had an issue with deer, and they had an organization, and I'm building them up by calling them that, called White Buffalo. That came in and did net and bolt on the deers, and what that is they throw nets over the heads of the deer, over the bodies, and then shoot a bolt into their head. Wow. And that's how they dealt with them in Princeton Township. Yeah. So I would certainly hope that we are humane enough here not to do something like that. Never. But I don't know what he has proposed up his sleeve. If he's got something, I'd love to know what it is.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good.
No net.
Appreciate
no
it.
Net, no bolt. No net, no bolt.
Anybody else have anything?
I just want to say one thing.
Up to the microphone, please.
After listening to everything, there was one good point. If that Wawa goes in there, they're only going to go in there if they're allowed to have the convenience store. So is it possible to do your due diligence before you vote to make sure that if it just said gas station, to keep the gas station in and not put convenience store? Because there's no way they're going to compete with Costco if they don't have a convenience store. They just won't open. And that might resolve that issue about the gas station. Right. So, I mean, can you guys double check before you vote to make sure that it mirrors what was already grandfathered in to the ordinance?
Marty,
before?
I think we have.
I think that was a great point.
And triple checked here.
Yeah, I do believe we have the convenience store combo that's been previously approved and in our zoning ordinance. But in addition, we have a developer who is looking for this as part of the development and getting a lot of other benefits. So I think the idea is we've culled down, as we've said before, we've culled down this application, we've reduced it substantially, and that's something that I think has always been a part of his proposal. And would I rather see no gas station there? Yeah, I'd rather see all restaurants and no retail because frankly I like to eat, I don't like to shop. But the bottom line is we have a developer who has an idea as to what he wants there. He's changed, he's reduced it. He's cooperated. I think other people, even those who are opposed to it, have spoken with him. He's a reasonable person, but he has certain parameters, and one of them certainly, if he's putting in a Wawa, which is what he in theory wants to put in there, it's a gas station with a convenience store.
But what I'm asking is, would you consider if it's not in the original ordinance to keep it the way it was with reference to that one issue?
I don't think so, because that would probably kill this deal. Then we're back in the lawsuit.
Okay, so that's the answer.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Mike. State your name and address for the record.
Yes, Cheryl Weisberg, Oak Tree Lane. I have a question regarding the ordinance when it was first presented to the planning board for their, I guess, vote as to whether it was consistent with the master plan. One of the planning board members had asked I think it's Miss Coffin. She was there that night representing Planner Higgins.
Okay.
And one of the planning board members had asked Miss Coffin to define private school. That his question was, could it be a religious school? And Miss Coffin's response was somewhat vague. She said it was her understanding that private school meant something like a dance studio or a karate school.
Drive-in schools, stuff like that.
Exactly. And I'm looking at the current version of the ordinance 2303, and I see gymnastics and martial arts studios itemized, and I see music and dance studios itemized. So what is the definition of private school? The planning board had suggested that the council spell that out in the ordinance, what it can and it cannot be. So what is private school?
Okay. Marty?
I actually, again, I'd have to look because we went through this quite a bit with another application in town. And I believe there's a definition in our general definitions of private schools. I can't tell you sitting here right this second what that is, but
you put it in the ordinance.
Well,
but you don't know what it is.
We put in the ordinance, in essence, the uses that would be permitted in a C2 zone, and that's one of the uses, I'm guessing.
But it wouldn't be, Cheryl, wouldn't be any school. I know where you're going, where the question was going with that. It would be strictly, like you said, either drive-in school, mathematics school, things like that you go to, and they classify themselves as a school, not a religious school or a.
So a religious school is not a permitted use in this zone.
We have a zone for religious school, a zone defined for that up in the Sandhills now. We created an.
Well, you also have them getting ready on Logan Road. That's a residential neighborhood.
Are they in there?
They were approved to be in there.
Empty. Anyway, the new zone is up in the Sandhills, which is our industrial zone. Sorry, I say Sandhills.
I'm not sure I'm clear.
So a religious school.
Well, not a religious school. That is.
Well, if she's asking for that, that would be permitted. We have a zone for that. That would be up there by.
I know. I recall when you passed that. I recall shortly after.
Right, so they wouldn't be able to come.
The hearing. My question to you is: the private school that's listed in Ordinance 2303, does that include a religious school? Yes or no?
No.
No.
Nope.
Marty?
I'd have to look at the ordinance again. However, I think what we were talking about before with a religious school was a religious school with a dormitory. That would not be allowed.
Well, it's an issue of tax exemption. It's not a rateable, right?
It depends. If there's an owner of a shopping center, the shopping center's use of the premises.
But the school falls under different parameters.
No, they would not get a tax exemption there.
I don't think there'd be a tax exemption.
So no religious school is zoned.
I'm not saying that. I don't really know. I'd have to look.
You're saying you don't know. You're saying no. Which one is it?
Clearly not the religious school that the public was opposed to, which included dormitories.
I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. I'm just looking for clarification.
There would be no tax.
Ms. Coffin was representing the township planner.
Right.
That night, the planning board voted that it was consistent unanimously with the master plan. So she said it was her understanding that private school meant like a dance school. But I see that separate from private school. So I'm looking for clarification on the definition.
No, that's good. I don't have the definition right here in front of me, so I can't tell you.
Well, she said that you should have that as part of the ordinance. It was that night.
Part of the general definitions in the ordinance. The general ordinance. I don't have it in front of me.
He doesn't have it in front of him.
It's the first time I'm being asked that question.
So the answer is no. It cannot be a religious school. A private school cannot be
That's
a.
the answer you want, certainly.
Well, you're saying I don't know. I have to look, and you're saying
He's
no.
giving you the attorney answer. He's not going to say anything until he looks it up for sure. I'm saying no. It's not going to.
Well, we're reviewing an ordinance. When you want to have the definitions of what's in it before you vote on it.
We have it in there. There's not going to be a tax exempt anything in there. Anything there is going to be paying taxes.
I wasn't asking specifically tax exempt. I said,
You
can
did
it be a religious school?
That's what your concern was.
Well, that's one of my concerns. If it is,
Okay, well,
But-
it's not going to be a tax exempt anything.
but it
Private
cannot be
school.
a religious school. A private school, as itemized in 2303, means not a religious school.
Right.
Are you going to amend it to specify what it can and can't be?
No. You have another question? No, it's not going to be amended. Do you have another question?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sure. We have 3 more minutes.
With all due respect to our town attorney, Mr. Arbus, I'm a linguist and I'm a professor of communications, among other things. And I must say that it's very disturbing to hear you predicate practically every single response with, I think, I believe, I don't know. Given the fact that a big decision is going to be made here today, apparently, we're asking you to put it off and take into consideration our concerns. Over and over and over again, it's been, I think, I believe, I'm not sure, I don't have it at hand. There's no expectation that you have everything at hand all the time, but as I said, to make a decision tonight when not everything is at hand and we're not clear as to what are the facts, we just believe and we think or we don't. I, as a concerned citizen, I'm not really clear as to how you can proceed in the best interest of the citizens of Township of Ocean tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You know what we're going to do? That's great, Robin. We're going to take an 8-minute recess and we'll come back to you. We're adjourned for 8 minutes. Come on, guys. We'll go look it up. Okay. Okay. We're going to go back into... Excuse me?
Wait, hold on. You ready? Hold on.
You need to take attendance there?
You have to do roll call.
We're good.
No, we're still... All right.
Have a seat, folks.
Our
Please have a seat. Have a seat. Please have a
recess
seat.
is over. We're going to get back to business. Everybody's quiet. Okay.
Michelle
Crossed.
Okay.
Okay. We left off with Marty was going to clarify about the schools. I think we have...
The request that was proposed, because I apparently never answer any questions generally, we have a distinction in our ordinance, our general provisions, between a private school and a parochial school. So a private school does include uses primarily for education and instruction of individuals in vocational, technical, academic, arts, or similar subjects. And the examples they provide are dance studio, modeling school, karate or gymnastics school, vocational school. And then we also have a definition of a parochial school, which would be a religious school. That's a separate and distinct definition. So I would say that it's not included in private school.
Great. Okay, thank you. Anybody else before we move on ordinance 2303? Yep, come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and anything new that you have will be appreciated.
Peter Young, 610 Deal Road. I found an article on Chick-fil-A pad sites getting...
This isn't a planning board hearing. This is a ordinance.
There has not
Change,
been an
Peter.
application made for that property. There's, just so you understand, there's not been an application made for the property.
I understand that. Can I continue? Or should I
Sure.
not
No, go
continue?
ahead. I just didn't want you to go down off the rail here. But go ahead, Peter. Tell me.
So they're getting larger and larger, and it says here that it is a lot of a increase in parking by expanding the restaurant's footprint.
Mm-hmm.
And it says that the drive-through lanes can be very long. They're the kind of lines that attract the attention of zoning commissioners when the site plans are submitted, and require police to direct cars when the store is open. Have you at all looked at concerns with the Chick-fil-A?
Well, that's not included in the ordinance. We have I think it's fast food. It's described as, right, Marty? Or chain, but you're a little ahead of yourself. Like I said, the person who's proposing to buy the property could walk away. We're proposing an ordinance that has a lot of these buffering in there, what we can have, what you can't have, as far as uses. You're being specific as to Chick-fil-A. Listen, Chick-fil-A may pull out of this if they're one of the intended users. We don't know that. So this isn't really the right place for that. You have something
I was
else?
concerned about the traffic.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. Thank you, Peter. Anybody else? Yep. You got to restate your name, though, because...
Jackie Wenzel, 610 Deal Road. Joni brought up a good point, and I just would like this maybe to be something that we could postpone the ordinance passing tonight about the convenience store with the gas station. If that's not in the master plan, then I would prefer it not be added.
I think Mr. Orbis explained why we would move on that, with that in there.
We've already had the...
Into the mic better.
No, but it's a change. It's that's why, no, because I asked earlier, why do we have a gas station on this? If a gas station is in the plan already, why is it listed here on a land use change? But then she pointed out and makes it very clear why it's listed, because this one includes a convenience store. So that's probably why it's on the land use change.
Your concern about the gas station was because of potential environmental issues
Well,
that
that's-
are related to the gas station, not the convenience store part.
No, but that type of gas station with the convenience store is typically a larger gas station. It's usually more of these mega super gas stations, so it takes up more space and more runoff and more environmental
In this case,
damage.
it'll be a maximum of 12 pumps. The automotive gasoline station C-store was added to our ordinance, it appears, in 1997 as a permitted use. Not necessarily in this zone. I don't know if it was in this zone. But you could have a gas station and a convenience store some places in Ocean Township since 1997.
Together, combined?
Yes.
Okay. And has any consideration been given to the existing businesses that are in town?
Absolutely.
This
A lot of-
new development may put everybody
accused
out
of
of
cutting you
out of business, which is a shame. You know, these are the other, as Joan also pointed out, the other gas stations won't have a convenience store, so they're probably going to lose the revenue they had, and then we will have more vacant businesses on the highway.
I can only tell you that when an applicant comes in, and I was sort of joking with Adam before, let's pass an ordinance that doesn't allow any more lawyers. We certainly have enough of them. But the bottom line is that somebody owns a piece of property, subject to, the zoning issues. But you can't just say, we're not going to let you do this because you're going to compete with other people that are already in town.
Well,
That
no,
would
it's
be
just...
an inappropriate use. I mean, we have stores opening up all the time that compete with other stores in the town. That's the
No,
way it
but
is.
there should be a balance. We don't need more. We don't anything right now. Listen, I think the guys are very nice guys, as everybody says, and they live in town, not in this part of town. They live in a nicer part of town, but they wouldn't want this in their backyard, I'm sure. But
Well, this is not your backyard. This is on Route 35. But go ahead.
well, it's pretty close to my backyard.
Pretty close to your backyard is Joe Palea Park, which is how many acres?
But the thing is, it's not. It really isn't consistent with the master plan. It's really a dramatic change to it.
Okay, that's your opinion. The planning board did. And they're the ones who make that determination.
I know, but if you approve, as Mrs. Hudson said, you're the council, like, if it's okay with you, then why would they fight you on it?
Not
The only thing is
necessarily.
I could try and get outside people from environmental studies to really stress that, if they would be allowed to do that. And again, I would like to have that time before this gets passed. Steve Levy is on the planning board, and I hear that his wife is a relative. So that's a conflict. He should recuse himself.
We haven't
from
even
that.
gotten to the planning board. When we do, he will be recused.
I know.
If I don't know who he's a relative of, but that'll be the
No, but it's not fair. It just feels like it's being. Well, I don't understand why we're having what's called a public hearing if the public really has no say in the matter. What's the point?
The public does have say in the
Not
matter.
really.
And frankly, no. The public has say in the matter. And
In what?
understand we've been doing this for, I mean, it's been several years that we've been doing it. When we've gotten to the point of this applicant, he's had meetings with people in the public. The public have come, and you have come, certainly, to every council meeting to give us your concerns. So it's not like we're hearing these for the first time. So we've been hearing all the issues, and as
But you
a
haven't
result-
heard us really. I mean, you haven't. You guys think you're just going to go forward with it the way it is. If it's a little bit more buffer, but the buffer's not natural buffer, and it's landscaping, and it's really, according to the study I saw that Mary organized at the library, it scares me. It's not the traffic, the flooding. And I mean, and just
That's
the
a concern.
environmental part is really not the right use of that land. I would love it if the brothers would just, there's so many places,
Donate
like
it to us.
they took Houlihan's over, like that's great. That side of the highway needs their help. That's where all of their energy should go, and then abandon this project. And I'm not afraid that we're going to go to court with Stop and Shop, because somehow they must have known there was some overlay zone going on, and they got involved in it. They should just let us buy the land back from them with our open space tax, take a loan, and apply for other grants. And I think we can get there. At least if we can't get all of it, have Paramount just develop 35. And keep a very nice, like, horseshoe kind of buffer of all the neighborhoods, the north side, the south side, the east side, and let it come and go from 35, because people will go down Logan. There's no question. We drive down Logan all the time because it's a nicer drive than 35, because we're always looking for the trees.
Because you're going east. You're going east is why
Right.
you take Logan.
Right.
Okay, just wanted to point that out. Thank you very much, Jackie. I really appreciate your comments. Anybody else? Okay.
State your name and address again.
Was this whole
State your
ordinance
name,
initiated?
please, ma'am. State your name and address.
Melissa Stryker, Appleby Drive,
Okay,
Warren,
thank you,
Madison.
Melissa.
Was this ordinance initiated to accommodate Paramount exclusively? Did they feed in what they wanted there?
Well, we took input from some of what their uses were going to be, some of what's permitted, and then we kept scale. If you see those 7 renderings there, got scaled back tremendously. What they wanted originally was a lot of commercial and 245 apartments. So now, after the 7th iteration of that, we're down to 68 high-end townhomes, 52% coverage versus the 85% that was proposed, and a lot less use, a lot less intense use. So it was a lot of work getting there.
All right, so that was my first comment.
Mhm.
My second one is, right up the highway in Eatontown is a quick check with a convenience store.
Absolutely.
And it takes up a huge
Right.
amount of land.
Mhm.
And it's ugly. And they took all the trees down up there.
Yeah.
Eatontown has destroyed their town, if you ask me. It's horrible. So that's there. And I think you probably saw in the paper 2 days ago that there's a Wawa with a convenience store is putting in a bid to take a piece of land in Red Bank.
Mhm.
And that's become a big fight there because it's going to cause all kinds of traffic issues. So I just thought that everybody here should be aware that that Wawa is trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, but
You
they're
know,
allowed
up
to
the
do
road.
business in the United States. It's not illegal.
Absolutely, but that doesn't mean it has to be here. Ocean Grove
I
doesn't
get it.
allow.
I understand
Ocean
that
Grove
part.
doesn't allow all kinds of franchises.
It's a historic
and this
town,
kind
right?
of
They have
stuff.
different.
And neither does Asbury,
ordinances
so it
that-
doesn't mean we
They don't have
to.
bars either.
Okay. As far as the West Park Avenue mess,
Yes.
I've heard it. I haven't even looked at it because I've heard it's just awful to see that barrenness up there. That is for senior housing.
Yes.
Okay, so there's going to be senior housing there,
Mhm.
and the senior housing on West Park, all right? And now this is going to be senior housing also?
No.
Well, why did I hear that about this part of this was
no
for
idea.
senior housing?
I think you heard.
One of the citizens say that this would be really good for senior people who are seniors to live there and be close to
The
shopping.
current zoning, if we don't change it, has senior housing in there. The current zoning. That's what you heard.
Okay, well that's, a lot of senior housing.
But we're gonna change it so we don't have that. We'll take care of
Okay.
that for you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Oh, third time at the Apple?
No, I know. But I know why
You can't
that
say I'm not patient.
senior housing came up. Because when people talked about that being a stress on schools, you all said, no, people going in there are going to be retired, they're not going to have children, they're going to... And then someone asked me, is it really zoned for senior? Then they can't bring children in.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not zoned senior, they can bring children in, and it can be a stress
They
on the
could.
school.
Yes, they could use a school. School's down 114 students. Typically, developments like that bring about 19% will use the school.
Okay, so it's possible it'll have school, because it's 4 bedrooms.
Sure, you can go
Who
to
else
school.
would buy a 4-bedroom
Absolutely.
house?
Listen.
People with kids.
People that live there, there's some, 19% will probably use the school, which, out of 75, that's 15.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Again, please come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Melanie Nolan again.
Yeah.
What is the date of the planning board meeting?
There's no meeting yet. There's not an application, has not been brought.
So
Nothing's happened yet. This
What will
is a
happen-
zone change.
What will happen is if there's a zone change and then the applicant makes application to the planning board, there'll be notice of property owners within 200 feet. There'll be published notice in the newspaper, and I'm sure there'll be people who will know about it and they'll spread the word, but that's when the application will be heard.
So at this point, there's
No
no date.
application pending.
Okay,
You
thank
fill
you.
that bottle up. Thank you.
Put those meetings in your newsletter that you.
They're always in the newsletters, on the calendar, on our website. We post them almost everywhere.
Every meeting
They're in the
that we
newspaper.
have
They're well noticed.
is on our website.
Before this council took over, this level of communication never even existed.
The good old days.
We never had cameras in the meeting room. These weren't televised, taped, archived, so you can see what's going on. Didn't have the newsletter. Didn't have the coffee with the mayor. Didn't have the reporter app. Didn't have my cell phone. Didn't have any way to get in touch with us about anything. Now you have all that. Good.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm Barbara DeCastro again. I just clarify for me, please. So if I hear you correctly, once you pass this zoning ordinance change tonight, then the owner of the property, the developer, can come in with a plan, and if it complies with this ordinance, everything is hunky-dory.
Well, if it complies with the ordinance, he won't need any variances. Doesn't mean that they're not
So-
going to restrict him more.
So why are we going to shove something through tonight
He'll tell you
that
why.
has understandably vague, that people have complained about, raised issues, questions, that needs clarification? Why don't we get it right the first
We
time?
did. We clarified the school, and the other part that you had was a 25% issue, which we're comfortable with that being in here compared to what the present use is. So we're comfortable with that.
You're comfortable with
We're
that.
very comfortable with it.
And
I
the
think it's the-
understanding of the people may not be so comfortable.
I understand not everybody's going to be happy, Barbara. I do get that. I live here. I thoroughly
Could you tell
understand.
me who drafted this ordinance?
Sure. Mr. Higgins drafted.
Jim Higgins, the township
Planner.
Okay, because it
That's his
seems
job.
like they're it's lacking.
Okay.
And,
Thank you.
And I'm concerned about just shoving it on through.
We're not just shoving. It's been a while in the
So,
making.
so if
It's
there
been a
is
long time.
something where as we look at some future plan before the planning board, and then people look at it and say, well, wait a minute, then we're going to have to push for variances or claim he needs a variance, or we're just out of luck if the understanding of the developer is different than what we've heard from you guys tonight. You know,
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. No, it's going to be clear to the planner when he gets here that the 75-foot buffer's here and then the road's behind it. I mean, it's clear. It's on the plan. It's clear that way.
if you say so.
Okay, thank you. Perry Mason, come on up. I'm teasing.
You have to announce your name again, Adam.
Adam Weisberg, Oak Tree Lane. And this is really more for you, Marty.
I'm leaving.
No, you put this through. All right, and I think the crowning jewel of the project is the hotel, 4-story hotel, and the Wawa with the market. All right, now it goes to the planning board. Okay, the brothers take it to the planning board, and they say this is what we're going to do. Now, does the planning board, assuming that they listen to the public and they do their demonstration, does the planning board have the power at that point to either just turn it down, or can they go back and say maybe it shouldn't be a 4-story hotel, maybe it should be a 3-story hotel, maybe we don't need a Wawa with a market? In other words, can the planning board have these guys scale down or change the plan in order to carry the day?
The planning board typically cannot change what the zoning is. However, if there are other issues, like drainage issues, if there are other issues maybe related to some traffic concerns that they feel they can alleviate, they can make changes. They can also suggest changes to the developer. But in addition, just because you don't have a variance doesn't automatically mean you get site plan approval. You get site plan approval depending upon whether you're needing variances, but in addition, you have to meet other criteria related to drainage and parking and et cetera in the application.
But if they can't meet that, and
Right.
they would be in their rights then at that point to withdraw and walk away
If they
from the project.
cannot develop in accordance with the zoning ordinance that is approved, assuming it's approved, and they make application and they can't get an approval, again, depending upon their contract, and I apologize that I don't know what their contract is.
You're not party to that.
I'm not a party to the contract. I'm the township attorney. They have a contract. I don't know what the conditions are, but I would say that most often those conditions include final approval from a board.
Okay.
So
Now, let's say they're unable to secure those final conditions, okay? And Paramount says, "See ya, we're walking." The town would still be stuck with then at that point, still defending the Stop and Shop lawsuit. Why we still have this ordinance passed? Is that correct?
that is absolutely correct. However, the ordinance that we would have passed, this ordinance, appears to be better than the ordinance that we have in place right now. Now, whether or not we should then change that ordinance again, time will tell. But right now, we have an applicant who is, in theory, potentially going to develop this property consistent with this ordinance, subject to his going to a planning board and getting approval. But that'll happen when or if it happens. If the zoning goes through.
One last question, I'll leave you alone.
Sure.
All right. Let's say they don't get the approval. The zoning board says no, and they decide that we're not going to sue the town, we're not going to sue anybody, we're going to walk away.
Right.
What are our defenses against Stop and Shop then, at that point?
Well, we have defenses right now against Stop and Shop. I'm not here to discuss the details of the Stop and Shop lawsuit, because that is something for me to discuss with my clients, which is the council, because whatever I say here, as I said before, this is public information.
I know.
That means it's available to everybody, including my adversary. So I sit here and say, here are my concerns, here are what I'm thinking about. I'm not going to do that. Okay, so my position publicly is, if we end up trying a lawsuit, it'll be very expensive, but we'll win. You know, but what I discuss with the council is what I discuss with the council.
Just worried because, you know, as taxpayers, we're your clients too, and we want to make sure
All the time.
that we're protected. That's all. I see you. You live here too. You're my neighbor.
I live in this town, and as I said before, in which was not a response to Mark's question, but somebody had raised it in a letter, is from a legal perspective, I bill by the hour. I'm better off if a lawsuit goes ahead. We have all the time taken. I'm not looking to do that. I'm looking to
nobody wants a trial if we can't win.
I'm looking to do what I think is the best for the town, and then the council either agrees or doesn't agree.
All right.
What he said.
Thank you, Marty.
You're welcome,
Thank you.
madam.
Anybody else?
Quick.
All right, seeing and hearing no one, somebody please close the public hearing on ordinance 2303.
I move we close the hearing on ordinance, public discussion on ordinance number 2303.
Second?
I second that.
Do I ask Rob or no?
No, roll call.
Council members Long,
Yes.
Napolitani,
Yes.
Shephaka,
Yes.
and Mayor Sulciano.
Yes, action please on ordinance number 2303.
Move for the adoption on ordinance number 2303.
I second that.
Council members Long,
Yes.
Napolitani,
Yes.
Shephaka,
Yes.
and Mayor Sulciano.
Yes. Ordinance approved.
Adopted.
Ordinance has been adopted. Anybody have anything else at this time? Come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing or hearing no one, we move for a adjournment.
Move for the adjournment.
Second?
Second.
That.
Did a great job, bro.
Councilman, Deputy Mayor Achara, just say it. Council members Long, Napolitani,
Yes.
Shephaka,
Yes.
and Mayor Sulciano.
Yes, meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it. We air twice a day on channel 77 and 22, 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Hang on, Dan. I'll put them in order for you.